What's the happening? What's the happening? Oh man, I got my cameras all screwed up here. New camera overlay. There we go. All right. Where are we? What have we seen here today? Um so George had a blog update that a lot of people have been talking about because um and it's I don't know. At the same time, it's very little to talk about, but at the same time, on the one hand, it's very little to talk about. On the other hand, it's so rare that he actually talks about what he's doing with the Winds of Winter specifically that it's a little interesting. Let's see my interview window here. Um, so let's talk about this for a second. So same with the Clutch of Cersei chapters that George has finished. Does that mean she'll survive Winds of Winter, or that he's really written not that much? Um, I think on the first issue, I think Cersei is probably going to survive pretty far. Now, a lot of people wonder, like, how is that possible? Logically speaking, why is the widow of the former king and mother to other kings like that's relevant to things? I think it has to do with the Ironborn. I think that there's a lot of evidence that I hit my mic earlier. I'm fucking shit show today. Um, the I found if you just looking at the Westerlands for a lot of the sample chapter and thinking about um, what's going on there, I think that there's enough Ironborn connections in the Westerlands to justify a a an Ironborn Lannister alliance, and I think we do have a little hint of that as well in the Aeron sample chapter. So I see Cersei somehow, I mean, maybe escaping King's Landing and ruling as a queen and having to team up with Euron. Now this is just, it's so much of the show as well that it's a little cheating, but 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 I think there's other things there. Like if you look to the Westerlands, like House Kenning, for example, there's a House Kenning in the Westerlands and there's a House Kenning in on the Iron Isles, and it's like, why did George R. R. Martin choose to have a House Kenning in two places like that? There's not many. I can't think of any houses where it's really done like that, where there's two houses um, in two different kingdoms. Like the Manderleys moved, and like the Blackwoods moved, but they don't have a house back home. And when you look at, like, okay, there's more than one House Vance, or there's more than one House Flint, there's more than one House Dane, but they're still in the same kingdom. Like, why would George do something where he placed one House Kenning in the Westerlands and one House Kenning in on the Iron Isles? And then there's a couple marriages as well that so I think Cersei will survive. The but with regards to the Cersei clutch, that as he calls it, so he used the term clutch because he doesn't know how many chapters that is. When George R. R. Martin writes chapters, he writes one point of view, and then he just kind of continues on with that point of view, and then he just keeps writing. And then later on, he figures out where to divide that chapter, and then how to blend them together timeline wise. And he tries to find similar thematic elements to link them timeline wise. So an example of this is like when Theon descends into the Winterfell crypts to show off the crypts to Lady Dustin. This is done at the same time as Quentin descends into the pyramid to look at the dragons. Now, did he really think when he wrote the Quentin chapter that, oh, I'm going to parallel this with Theon? Or when he wrote the Theon chapter, he wanted to parallel with Quentin? I don't know. But it's just, when he was merging the chapters timeline wise, he was probably like, oh, this fits okay thematically. Let's merge this in. So, like, finishing a clutch of Cersei chapters just means he kind of finished one large, like, stretch of Cersei. By the way, I wanted to get to this real quick. Your fanfic is pushing him to write the Winds of Winter. I doubt that, though I do think he only really started writing the Winds of Winter in truth at the beginning of COVID. I do think that he wasn't doing anything before. And so but this is a whole nother issue, like the Cersei clutch. So there are times, like even as early as, I want to say Balticon, which is like 2016, he mentioned before going to Balticon that he was working on a Cersei chapter. And then every once in a while he kind of said like, oh, I've been visiting Cersei. So when he says, so I take at that point that he just kind of started Cersei at the beginning of 2016. And he hadn't really been working on her for at all. I don't think he was working on really anything in truth. If you look at a lot of the evidence of those early years, he'll talk about, oh, I have hundreds of manuscript pages. And you're like, right, but you also have your sample chapters and any kind of rough cut left over from A Dance with Dragons. And he had a lot of that left over. So when he gave updates to people in those early years, it was always, oh, I've got hundreds of manuscript pages. Well, that's because you wrote a bunch of stuff with the Winds of Winter. You wrote a lot with the Winds of Winter. That's like, he didn't even need to, like, he started from a good starting point, because we know that there's going to be that he had finished 2 Elaine chapters, a Victorian chapter, 2 Tyrion chapters, 2 Barristan chapters, 2 Ariana chapters. I think he may have also finished there's evidence to say that he had already finished a Hotah chapter and a Bran chapter, and the Forsaken chapter. So he had a good 10 to 12 chapters already done, plus some rough stuff, before A Dance with Dragons was even published. And so, you kind of say, okay, he's got like 200. You need 1,500 manuscript pages for the novel, and he had about 200 of finished sample chapter manuscript pages, and he had there's evidence to say that he had about 170 other manuscript pages that were rough cuts. I think there's a report that he passed in 170 manuscript pages to fulfill his contractual duty to his publisher at one point. And but then you don't hear about these kind of page counts with any specificity for years and years and years. And anytime we actually come into something like, oh, I started working on a Cersei chapter, or his John Oliver appearance, which is 2015, 2016. He's at the very beginning of Asha, like within the first couple paragraphs of Asha, like just horrible progress. I don't think he did anything. I think he took those 4. He said, oh, I've got 400 manuscript pages. I've got this cushion. That means I can take a break for a while because I've already gotten ahead. And then it was only maybe until COVID where he's finally like, oh, maybe I should sit down. He's way behind. He probably needed some contractual pages. And so, he dumped some stuff for The World of Ice and Fire, and maybe that counted, or Fire and Blood, and maybe that counted. Literally measuring. I mean, these things really, like, they're really like reports about the 170 manuscript pages. They're really reports that it was like 167 manuscript pages. I mean, there's been a lot of analysis of this, but about his progress, because he keeps saying, "Oh, I've got hundreds," or "I'm in the middle." And people saying like, "What does that mean?" And it's like, it means nothing. He made no progress. I don't think he really started writing until COVID. Let's see here. But so with Cersei, we've been hearing about him being in Cersei. Take that joke. We've been hearing him working on Cersei for years here and there. the fact that he's finished Cersei, he claims, is I suppose good news. He says that it caused him some trouble, and I think it's a situation where he's dealing with timeline issues with John Con probably, and John Con's conquest, which, if you also think about like timeline wise, that's the beginning of the Cersei stuff. Like, right? Like John Con, we kind of know that at this point in the story, he's just about to take Storm's End, and we know that John Con is going to have a ruse to take Storm's End, and so maybe that would take a chapter, and then maybe you'd have a chapter for Cersei's trial. But the second Cersei chapter would be dealing with John Con's like assault on King's Landing, or the third chapter would be John Con's assault on King's Landing. So that's how far it is. Like he's written at most 3 Cersei chapters, and he was dealing probably with the issue of John Con. Which means he's probably written that John Con chapter too, I would think. But that John Con chapter he's been talking about for a while. And that would be the first John Con chapter, like taking Storm's End, and maybe the second, like going in and dealing with King's Landing. So we kind of have proof, and I know on a different date he said that he finished 3 other chapters. So I guess we kind of know that he's finished maybe another like 7 chapters, which, I mean, there's nothing to say that he might have not finished more, but I don't see him actually having very much progress. Could you see a situation where Cersei is usurped and then has to team up with someone she utterly despises, just like the real life Margaret of Anjou had to with Warwick the Kingmaker, maybe John Connington or Stannis? I don't think it's gonna be different from the show too much. I think she's going to team up with Euron, and I think she's going to hate that. Like, this is how low I go. I think there's going to be some issues with the Dornish, and whether or not she can sort of still think that they're allies with her, because obviously they hate her, but at the same time they're set up as allies. But I definitely think that she's teaming up with Euron. I mean, we've got the show as evidence. We've got the dream from Aeron as evidence. We have all of the kind of planted seeds of Ironborn connections in the Westerlands. There's at least 2 marriages and then House Kenning in the Westerlands to kind of show that there's going to be some sort of Westerland Ironborn team up. And it's always been a little suspicious, like in the story, why didn't the Ironborn ever attack the Westerlands? They were right there. Like at first we have the excuse that Balon was doing it because he wanted to attack the North and then make a deal with Tywin for the North. But then on their assault southward, they just kind of attack the Reach, and there's no real explanation on why they didn't attack the Westerlands. I mean, maybe there's some scheming, but it's probably just that George didn't want to create any dispute between the Westerlands and the Ironborn, because he wanted to have an alliance at some point. Did he write all the way until she dies? So some people are thinking like, okay, George has too many point of view chapters, right? Like, we need to start cutting point of view chapters. How do we get there? There's some videos out there on like trying to count the number of chapters and stuff like that would fit in. I don't necessarily think it's a problem to keep Cersei alive. If you give her 3 chapters, that's not taking up too much space. She's too good of a villain to kill off this early. I think like the show, she's going to make it till the end. She's just too good of a villain. Like if you read through Feast and you see her mindset and what she is, like, isn't she just too much fun? Like I kind of ask people, like, if you were writing Winds, like, would you kill off Cersei? Like, like it's I mean, I understand that these people that want this Jon Snow Daenerys story and things like that, but um I just don't see a need to kill her off. She's too much fun, and it's too interesting to see this crazy woman squeak out of these situations where you think she's going to die and then she doesn't. On politics, Preston, what's the worst Supreme Court decision? I mean, what people say, separate but equal. What's that? Plessy versus Ferguson would probably be. I mean, that's kind of the famous one that upheld racial segregation. The though we're it's how you judge things, though, right? Like, what is legally off and crazy versus like what has the worst impact on society and things like that. It's strange. It's strange that we kind of, like, growing up in America, we're kind of told and learn that, oh, we've got these wonderful separation of powers and we're into spicy politics already. And the Supreme Court is this wonderful balance to Congress and the president, because they don't have to deal with being elected and things like that, and they can actually, like, use their minds and intellectual power to really think about where society is going, and then we just have crap decisions like what's about to going to come down with this new court and Plessy versus Ferguson. I mean, it's just they're human beings. They're a bunch of chumps, like anybody else. I mean, the Supreme Court, there should be like 30 or 40 people on it or something. Like, it seems ridiculous that the death of one person can change the entire nation, like, and who happens to be president at the time or whatever. Like, it's just really, really kind of ridiculous stuff. But yeah, it's no one. Segregation is a really bad idea. But if you're going with, like, legal precedent for it, I suppose you can legally get behind the idea that, oh, separate but equal can possibly work. Like, oh, we've got this, things can be equal and separate, can't they? Like, logically speaking. Of course, it was really stupid. And we're about to get a really dumb decision coming soon with regards to abortion in America. I mean, they're eventually going to start trying to take, I mean, not just abortion, but they're going to start taking birth control and things away from people in America. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if people can vote, people can stay angry and not get distracted by little things. So do you put stock in the theory that Team Aegon will go to Old Town to fight Euron and secure the Reach before taking King's Landing? I think that the next book has to be kind of Team Aegon, like, taking over the map pretty fast, right? And so there may be some fighting between Team Aegon and Euron, but if you actually, like, think about their flow, Aegon's going east to west, and Euron is attacking, the west coast, and so they don't necessarily, like, have to touch too much. It's mainly just about, like, sweeping out the new powers and seeing who people align with. Like, a lot of people are going to be at the mercy of the Ironborn, which, if they team up with Cersei, means they're going to stick with the Lannisters. But of course, they're kind of going to lay low once Daenerys comes back. So we kind of know that there's going to be a second dance of the dragons, and so they're just kind of going to lay low on that coast and wait for wait for Aegon and Daenerys to fight it out. They might have a few exchanges, but I don't think it's going to be anything too major. I think that we're going to have a lot of a lot of discussions and a lot of flip flopping of houses and finagling. The real question is, of course, what the Vale and Dorne are going to do, because they're the ones with actually like armies. So it should be interesting. I mean, there's a few things like house by house who I think who I think might flip. Like I do think that like Bonifer Hasty has every reason to support Aegon. And then you've got, once he kind of establishes himself in Aegon, and I do kind of think that the Brotherhood Without Banners like has reasons to support Aegon. And so I think a lot of the Riverlands could go that way. And then obviously a lot of the Reach we talk about being, being secret Aegon supporters for whatever reason, either because they liked Rhaegar or because they're secretly Blackfyres or something. But I think, for him to march an army all the way to Old Town, I think you'd have to have somebody switched over to Aegon to get there. I think timeline-wise, it just takes too long for him to march all the way across the map to get there. Plus, like, Eurons and ships and stuff like that. How is Euron's dream evidence? So we have this line in Aeron's dream about a woman with in kind of white flame, and when you read that, the obvious thing you're supposed to think of is Daenerys, right? Like Euron has been courting Daenerys, and she's into dragons, so she's involved with flames and all of that, and so therefore, like, we should think that this is Daenerys. But of course, like, that's a little too easy, right? Like, it would have to be somebody besides her, right? Which you could say, okay, well, maybe it's Melisandre. Okay, maybe, but it's got to be somebody else that's not Daenerys. Like, Daenerys is the first choice. She's too easy. Like, if it were going to be Daenerys, why wouldn't he just put Daenerys in the dream? Instead, he puts like a woman with of white flame in Aeron's dream, which, just saying that like Daenerys is the obvious answer, which means it's not Daenerys. And so you've just gotta go with the next one, which is, probably Cersei, especially considering, we've got the show and everything. Who are you most looking forward to killing off in the fanfic besides Arya? LOL. People have this idea that I hate Arya. I do not hate Arya. I think recently Carmine recently, like, sometimes he finds like the most egregious comments that he finds across the internet and then sends them my way. And one of them was this long thing about how, like, I hate Arya and how I don't do any analysis on her. And I was like, what? I have a whole series on Arya. I don't understand. Who am I most looking forward to killing off in the fanfic? I mean, I think keeping, like, something like keeping Jon dead or I don't know if I want to kill off Jorah just yet, but, like, something where you're doing something that's going to significantly change the plot and make it forever not like the show is kind of what I'm looking forward to. Where you're just like, oh, well, that's different. Now we have to take it in a new direction, which is why, like, I talk about, like, the cool idea of just keeping Jon dead. It's not that I dislike Jon. I don't dislike Jon. But if you keep Jon dead, you are forced to make a completely new story, which is pretty neat. I mean, it'd be also interesting if you killed Dany off, but I think that's a little far when she has all these dragons and stuff, like, to just kill off all the dragons. I mean, I think it'd be very interesting to kill off Tyrion too, but I also think that's a little too much. I think it's much easier to, like, Jon's story could be done at this point. Like he had an arc, and he completed that arc. There's not that much more to it. Yeah, you could say, okay, well, he never found out about his lineage. Okay, he could find out about his lineage at some point, like as Ghost. Um, but is there anything that John really, really needs to do? Um, you know, to he had a pretty good story. He rose up. He was naive, just like his father or his adoptive father, and paid the price for it. And he tried to do the right thing by helping the wildlings through the wall. He fulfilled the blue rose prophecy by being a chink in the wall, and you could easily say, well, he had his purpose, and let's let that purpose be, and then he dies. But I don't know. Like, I do like all of the characters. Like, all of them have so much potential. So I don't know if I have too much desire. Like I'm just like, oh, I want, like it's like when we killed Balon Swan in the fanfic. Like, I really liked Balon Swan. like, you know. So I think it's just that something that makes you take the story into a new, unexpected direction, which I think is really fun. Is Tyrek actually a horse? That's love your vids. What do you think would be the effect of adding Pokemon to the Song of Ice and Fire story? Oh my, Pokemon. Well, I'm trying to think, like, does that mean like each character would be a trainer? Um, and so you'd have like Cersei like torturing different Pokemon to battle, and like John Con getting different Pokemon to battle ridiculous stuff. Um, I mean, I suppose like the big thing would be like winter is coming, so all of the ice Pokemon would have like some sort of huge advantage, right? Um, and so you just see a lot more Mamoswine out there, and then the Mamoswine could get like John Con would not have elephants, but he'd have a lot of Mamoswine, like on the map. Like I'm trying to think of any other good ice Pokemon that that relevant. Empolians. I mean, it's not that different, I suppose, when everybody has their warging animals kind of thing going on. I feel like as a feminist, it would be weird ending. It would be a weird ending with two crazy women fighting for the throne. I definitely thought that with the show. I thought it was a little odd that it was going to be that it was a Cersei, Danny fight at the end with both of them going nuts. Like, the show never really had, with the exception of Brienne, they never really had I guess they tried to do it with Sansa, but they never really had a very good, like, sane, a female character that everybody could kind of get behind, and there wasn't a Jon or a Davos kind of character. All the female characters were kind of nuts. I mean, I suppose like you have Brienne, but she kind of just disappeared as a character near the end, and like, had she had a more definitive role, you know, maybe it would have worked out better. Um, but or they tried to repair Asha a little, but none of them had a role in the end, which is really sad, and it was just two crazy women duking it out, and being completely nuts. And then I don't know, and then Tyrion and Jon deciding the rational thing to do. It didn't feel very George R. R. Martin, did it? Like, you'd think that if it were George, it would be kind of Brienne really kind of understanding and ruling the kingdom and things like that at the end, or making a big decision that changed the destiny of man. But Instead, it wasn't. It was just crazy, crazy Danny and crazy, crazy Cersei. So I don't think it'll be that. Like, he needs to do something, right? He needs to have one of his female characters like step up. And one could say, okay, you could expand the role of Sansa, but Sansa's kind of like in George R. R. Martin's master plan from the beginning. Sansa's a new character. She's just kind of split off from like what he envisioned Arya to be. So, there was no Sansa in his original plan. There was just Arya. And then he cut the characters in two, and he gave kind of half the plot to Sansa and half the plot to Arya, and they've become very, very different characters and very different, plots over time. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, I guess if I were him, I think thematically having Brienne be more important and being a real decisive character in the grand scheme of things, I think is rather important. And that's where kind of I would take the story, Brienne and Sansa stepping in and being essential, but which we didn't see in the show. Will Stannis live to dream of spring? And I don't think Darkstar is the baller you hype him up to be. I think he might just be a dork. It's hard to. There's evidence both ways on Stannis. I don't necessarily think that George knows what he's going to do with him. I mean, we have all of this stuff that says that Stannis is going to, probably win the Battle of Ice, or at least the first round of it. With there's so much evidence that he set up that lake, that people are going to fall into that lake. I don't necessarily think that every aspect of the night lamp theory is going to happen, but I certainly think at 100% that people are going to fall into that lake, and it's going to help him win the battle. Now, but then there's the question of what happens after that. And Stannis does have some rather arrogant lines about why he should fear Ramsay. Dismiss it. Like Theon says, oh, you should worry about Ramsay. And then he kind of dismisses it. And that does make me think that at some point, like Ramsay is going to one-up Stannis with some sort of surprise that he didn't think, and that Stannis might not make it. So I don't necessarily think that Stannis will live to a dream of spring. I think he might live longer than we think, or longer than what's set up. Because what's set up is that he's just, he's freezing to death and will be easily killed by Ramsay's forces, and that he died. And so he needs to survive a little bit longer. But at some point, will Ramsay be able to defeat him? I think that's kind of what's being set up. Just with that arrogance of what he says. Why should I fear Ramsay? So I don't think he's actually going to live to a dream of spring. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I do love him as a character, but there's a lot he's got to end up doing. If we believe the whole burning of Shireen thing, he's got to make it back to the Wall, which that's months, right? So, that's him making it well into the Winds of Winter. But when it went, most of George R. R. Martin's recent projects have been collaborating, adapting works, or supporting other authors. Could his lasting legacy actually be his influence on other writers and not the Song of Ice and Fire series? That's an interesting idea. But like one could say, okay, the Expanse was written by a couple guys who were his proteges. And so we kind of, you could say that, oh, the Expanse wouldn't have happened without George R. R. Martin or something like that. But I don't know if necessarily like obviously everybody influences each other, but do we think about everybody's influences, going forward and remembering people? Like, do we think when people go, oh, I'm a big George R. R. Martin fan, like, do people think about Jack Vance and Michael Moorcock? Like, super fans do, But does everybody else think like, oh yeah, no, he was actually really influenced by these other guys? Um, and so, you know, it may be a legacy and it may be a real legacy, but it won't be necessarily what's famous, you know? Like, but that I suppose that's everybody in life. Like, we all think about our legacies, but like the most influential legacies we have is just like living life and being nice people to each other, and all that goes hidden. You know, no one's ever going to write a an obituary and say, well, you know, he was really good to his friends, and he lived his life. He went to work every day, and he was a contributing member of society, and you know, it's just not. Even though that's like what we do every day, and probably what will be our greatest legacy is what's unseen. But who knows? Let's see here. Who do you think would win? Hannibal versus Stannis, Tommer versus Drogo, Scipio versus John Cathay, and the Great versus Cersei? The problem with all of the historical stuff, like especially when we go really far back, is we don't really know what happened. Like we get some ideas about like what Hannibal did, but it's, you know, there's all sorts of myth involved in going around on what actually happened. Like, did he really, you know, he didn't really cross the Alps and things like that. So it's tough. It's tough to, we don't really know what's going on in their minds. How smart were they? Did they really just have a lot of people? Were they lucky? You know, people talk about these, you know, great military minds, but you know, how, like anything else in life, like how much is their undoing and how much is the people they've surrounded themselves? How much is luck? How much is just starting with the bigger numbers? Like some people talk about like Ulysses S. Grant, like, you know, was he a better general than Robert E. Lee? And, you know, he had the superior force many times over, you know, he was going to probably win, but he didn't do anything to screw it up. And so everybody's like, well, you know, that was the smart move, right? Like, why would you take risks and do crazy stuff when you've got the superior force? Just do the regular typical battle and win the war. And that's what he did. And so he did the smart move, but was it genius? No, but it was the right move, you know? So, you know, so I don't know. It's, Stannis is somebody that's taking nothing and doing crazy stuff with it, which makes us appreciate him really, really well. I don't know. I have to go through all of these. I know a lot about what Hannibal did, but I don't really know about, you know, these other battles very much. But, you know, I have to go back and really figure out if it was something I really thought was impressive, and what the people afterwards, are they just pushing up and creating a good story. Hi, Preston. Love all your videos. Any advice for an American with EU citizenship who is looking to move abroad? So I would say if you're really looking to move abroad, one thing that, so one problem which I've seen when I've lived in different countries is a lot of people move someplace and, you know, they don't know the language. And so the first thing is they spend years and years and years trying to learn the language, which takes a lot of time. And then they kind of, but then even if they learn the language, they don't have the experience of either the education in something or having worked someplace long enough. So you've got these like two things at once that you need to do, right? Learn the language and have the experience. And they kind of take an equal amount of time. You know, sometimes the language takes more and is harder, but at the same time, it's less valuable on the resume. If I'm really like saying if you really want to work in Europe and you already have the EU citizenship, I'd say my best idea for you is to enroll in university or a master's degree or something in a country that offers free university, like say Germany. Okay, Germany, all the universities are free, even for foreigners. And then when you're in university, the whole point of master's degrees is to make contacts. And once you're among a group of friends that are all doing like-minded things, and then at that point you spend a couple of years, 1 or 2 years, like meeting people, figuring out where they're working, what you can do, what skills you can bring to the table. You'll have this degree, and then you can get a job, through your connections. That's the big thing. Because if you're just like nobody, you have no connections, you have no language abilities, you have no education, you have no work experience, what are you going to be? I mean, you a bartender, like, you want something that, like, you want something that actually has like a future. And so I think that you need to make connections, and graduate school is for making connections. People think, oh, it's for the education. You don't learn anything in graduate school. You learn jack shit in graduate school. Graduate school is like, whether it's business school or law school, you learn some nice theory. None of it is relevant. You're getting a degree and you're making connections, and that's what you need to do. You need to put yourself in a position where you're making connections. And so I would, there are some great business school programs. They cost money in Germany, but there are some free, like, econ programs. There's other programs that are free. Then you're living cheaply, you're meeting people, learn the language in your spare time. And then once you're out and you've got the EU citizenship, that's the other big hurdle, which is how are they going to allow you to legally work, and who's willing to shell out, money for a foreigner to stay in the country, and go through that bureaucratic hurdle. The fact that you're an EU citizen, like, makes it just so much easier. So, that's my advice. Grad school, make connections, and then move in and work. But I'd start with that. Okay. I'm way in, like, back discussions here, because I'm just like, oh, do I want to go back to some things that people have said a while ago? What aspects of John as a character? And how George writes him do you appreciate and enjoy? I appreciate John. John is one of the few characters that actually cares about human beings as human beings, and is not so concerned with, his house. And I mean, he does later, like, want to get with Arya, but I mean, want to get with her. He does want to get with Arya in the original outline, but he does, like, care about Arya. But that's mainly because he grew up with her. Like, he's not necessarily a character who's overwhelmingly, like, into pushing the advancement of his house. Like, he feels like personal loyalty to people. He feels personal loyalty to Robb. He feels personal loyalty to Arya. His connection and growth in accepting the wildlings is a very impressive act that other characters don't necessarily have. Like, Daenerys learns to love the Dothraki, but at the same time, she still acts cruel towards other groups. John is, like, one of the few, like, universalists where he just, like, cares about human beings. So, I mean, there's that kind of, like, caring aspect of him. John also has a lot of self-doubt and takes somebody's, like, ideas and thinks about them and then can change his mind. Like, he's not very stubborn. He's young, and he's looking for new ideas and things like that. And he's a character that shifts his beliefs and grows. So, I mean, John's growth is what's interesting about him. The fact that, like, him in a Game of Thrones is a very different character from in A Clash of Kings, and he's a very different character in A Storm of Swords, and he's a very different character in A Dance with Dragons. And so that's what's impressive about him, is that he's a changing character. I don't even like looking through. Yeah, like yes, Arya becomes more psychopathic like over time, but and Tyrion becomes more depressed over time. Um, I'm trying to think of like another character that has that level of growth. Jaime, maybe has a good level of growth. Um, but everybody else, so far has been kind of static, and so Danny definitely has grown, but John's shown a lot of growth, and that's kind of the best aspect of him is the fact that he's not the same character all the way through. John dreamed black armor with a red sword and cut Rob's head, like Luke seeing himself as Darth Vader on Dagobah, warning what's going forward. Winterfell is the dark side. Yeah. Though he has I'm not sure what he also dreams of spiders going up the wall, so I'm not sure what that might be. Okay. Can we get a battle beneath the wall moment in the fanfic? But instead, House Baratheon, it's House Piper, and instead Stannis, it's their words. Let me quickly check on my House Piper. Let's see here. So House Piper's words are brave and beautiful. And then I'm trying to think about. I'm trying to think where House Piper would be next fighting. I mean, what we had some of them at River Run, and then they kind of melted away, as Jaime said that after the siege of River Run ended, everybody kind of said, war is over, and kind of started melting away. So we're not sure what House Piper is doing at this point. So we have to have a situation where there's trouble, right? Like say there's a battle, and defending the twins, and then the Vale forces are coming in, and at some point they say brave and beautiful. I don't know who House Piper would necessarily be saving. It would have to be House Piper saving someone, right? So got to see a situation where House Piper's somehow saving somebody and then would say brave and beautiful. It'll be an odd one. Let's see here. Oh, man, I'm way behind. Wildcards has been going for years. That's true. I don't know if does anyone. I've met a couple people, honestly, in life that say they're into wildcards, but I'm not sure. I'm wondering who was reading wildcards before Ice and Fire came along. Let's see here. Now we're up to. I'm getting now that we're going. I'm going forward with people's advice on college and things like that. Gosh golly. Okay. This is kind of funny. Globalist John, so based. Yes. Sansa has growth. I don't think Sansa has had much growth yet. We kind of have Sansa growing in that last, in the Elaine sample chapters, the first time we really see growth with her, where she's being a little clever and being able to go around and talk to people with a little more um, savviness and cleverness. It's the first time we've seen it. So we have one chapter of growth for Sansa, but for the most part, she's just kind of there in the background, having things happen to her. It's the first chance that she's really had some agency is in the Elaine sample chapter. So I mean, I'd like to see more. I mean, I really like that chapter. I think that chapter might be the best Sansa chapter yet. But so maybe hopefully she'll have much more safe travels. The okay, getting caught up. Read the first Wildcards book, did not like it. Yeah, I've unfortunately read like unfortunately I haven't read all the Wildcards books. There's a couple like novels that I just didn't bother with, but I've read nearly them all and forgotten them quite quickly. They and focused mainly on the George stories when they were there. He actually has very few stories throughout the entire Wildcard series. Like, I think, considering that there's like 20 some Wildcards books, George has like 10 short stories, and I'm being generous there. I think it might be less than that. And so there's, and because there are these short stories that don't necessarily like have any world building, because you don't want to go too far with the world building because then it gets away from the other authors. Like, it's not it doesn't hit the same Ice and Fire kind of notes. It's still very boomer too. Like, and I don't mean boomer in the hey boomer way. I mean like really like baby boom generation kind of stuff. Like, because it's definitely like George R. R. Martin, like how he perceived the world in the 70s and 80s, and like people act like that and have the like political opinions of what like hippie baby boomers would have in the 70s and 80s. Somebody mentioned, personally, I think Theon is the best written. I do think Theon's best written, though if I talk about it too much, Glidus is going to make fun of me because he says I talk about how great the Theon chapters are in A Dance with Dragons too much. But I think he's got some good growth in different directions. But it seems like George spent all of his time on that. Wildcards is a front. It is kind of a front. Like, it's kind of just like, I've got all these friends. I want them to have success. So I'm going to give them a forum to write. And then then maybe people will pick up the book and read it because it's got my name on the front as editor, Oh, thank you so much for recommending Pat Finnerty. Would you commission him to do a cover of the Rogue Prince song for House of the Dragon? I would love to. I've never talked to Pat Finnerty. So Pat Finnerty is what I call like, so YouTube has all of these completely underrated, incredible content creators. And then it has all of these overrated ones. And I could probably go on and on about overrated ones where I'm just like, how does this person have 1 million subscribers and get like 500,000 views for each of these videos? Like what is this crap? And then there's people that just put so much work into something, and it's so funny and it's so good, and he doesn't get that many views. And that's Pat Finnerty. Like, he does incredible music analysis that's just hilarious, and it's hilarious. But of course, it's like it's right up my alley because it's like music and stuff that around people of like my age and stuff like that. Like, if you're into Machine Gun Kelly or something, it's not going to be up your alley as much as if you're into rocker stuff from the 90s, but Punk rock MBA. Isn't that the guy that just doesn't he just do videos where he's like why did ska core die? And then he just like talks about some like ska core bands, and then he never answers the question of like why did it die? He just mentions some bands were around, and then they were no longer around. He's got a huge number. I think he just like streams and then cuts up his stream. But yeah. But the music YouTube is kind of interesting because they can't actually play the songs too much because then they'll get copyrighted. So they like have a few seconds here and there. But he's also like of my age, you know? So like he should have more to say, but Punk Rock MBA, I don't know why he doesn't. And then, oh no. Preston, you got me down the Vosh and Destiny rabbit hole. It's been both funny and educational, at least in regard to rhetorical skills. Both of them are big, like, so these political YouTubers, and this goes both right and left. Like, if you start watching them, and they are, oh, nice. Carmine is here. Hello.
You know, if Pat Finnerty actually subscribes to you or is following you on Twitter, you can reach out to him. That's usually how I meet a lot of people. They randomly follow me. That's how I met Trey.
I don't think he's following me.
Check. Do you know how to check who's subscribed to you on YouTube?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the list, but let me see here. I mean, I can search for him on Twitter. I mean, it's just so funny because it's like it's somebody that has absolutely nothing to do with Ice and Fire. Where
Trey has nothing to do with that. That's not true, actually.
You know,
I know a couple YouTubers who don't have anything to do with Ice and Fire that I'm still very.
No, it says here that he's not followed by anyone that I'm following. So.
No.
Okay.
Sorry, homie. I don't think he's in council of YouTubers either, so I can't hit him up on Discord. So.
Yeah. No. He has nothing to do with Ice and Fire, and so like he's just like a random YouTuber that I think is like fucking great that gets no attention, even though like that's it. But you know, YouTube's a funny place, you know. But
YouTube's a funny place, not if you know how to like kick it. Because if we wanted 500,000 views every video, we would probably post clips of Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah,
everybody was grifting that.
That's the thing about life, right? Like you can hustle and you can grind, or you can like enjoy yourself, and do what you want to do in life. And you know, if you know, you've got to do a little bit of both. But well, there's actually people that just hustle and grind, and they don't care about what they're posting. You know, like I refuse to believe that like these people that post video after video after video of like being angry about like black people and women in Star Wars, like I'm doing it for years, and I'm just like, does that make you happy? Like I'm sure the money makes them happy, but like,
hold on. I'm glad you mentioned that. Do you know this guy? This YouTuber here, every Star Wars forum and subreddit I'm on, he's banned from being mentioned. And if he is mentioned, that person gets banned. Like, oh, really? 20 of them. Do you know this YouTuber?
No, I don't.
So Ryan Johnson actually dunked on this guy hard. Yeah. And for some reason, look him up right now. The weird thing about his videos, all of his videos are like the same length of time. It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And according to him, Kathleen Kennedy has been being fired for like the past 4 years. And every video is just Kathleen Kennedy is fired. Every fucking video. And it's so weird how all his videos are the same timestamp. It's so weird.
Yeah. I mean, but there's some really big ones that also like that where I'm just like, oh my, like some of them, I would say that there's some of them that are very talented in editing and are somewhat funny that do it, who are really successful. Like I would say like Robot Head, for example, does the same fucking videos over and over and over again, but he like throws in humor. And so he's like very, you know.
I would argue Robot Head I caught on to his. I don't want to say grift, but I caught
Yeah.
on to his shtick because he tried. He thought the popular thing to do was to rip on Star Wars.
Mm.
But what he didn't get the memo was that Mandalorian was popular. So he tried to rip on Mandalorian, and he got fucked in the comments for it and the ratings. Like, he got fucked for it. Mandalorian episode 1, he tried saying was the worst thing ever. Yeah, people did not agree. People did not agree.
And there's other stuff like there's some people where I'm like, oh wow, like I would enjoy your content if you cut out all of the like the clickbait shit. Like I think, for example, Critical Drinker, he if he had like when he's not talking about fucking woke Hollywood and all of that, he has some interesting things to say, but just like that's still like 75% of his fucking grift. So there are these odd things where you're like, oh man, like you could make really interesting content, but you're too interested in the money making content,
I gotta call you out here because not everybody has a nice cushy government job.
It's true.
Set them
it's
up for
true.
life. You
And
gotta
I mean,
grift a
that's
little
the
bit
big
to get
thing
that
is that
money.
is like, look, I'm older. Like I have savings. Like I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Like, we're two income, I have another job, 2 income household. Like I don't, calling people out on like trying to make money. It's like, look, you're trying to make money. You're doing your thing. But it's also like, I don't like people just making money when I think what they're doing is harming the world. Like, I mean, granted, like how much harm is bashing Kathleen Kennedy over and over and over again? I don't know. Like, is it secretly making 12-year-old boys into sexists? Maybe a little. I don't know. Like, how much is harmless and how much is harmful? I don't know. But like, so it's like I don't mind people making money, but then it's like when I think you're actually hurting the world is another thing, So that's my
By the way,
problem.
real quick before you get back to your super chats,
Yeah.
how the fuck do you know Mammoth and Empoleon and all this shit? Who taught you these? That's Gen 4 shit right there. Are you on Pokemon Go?
Yeah. I got my Pokemon Go. That's
Oh
about it.
shit.
Yeah.
I
That's
downloaded the app
that's my
like a
only
minute ago.
knowledge of it. Like,
Just
if
play
people
the
started
games.
talking to me about the show and things like that, there's no way,
Just play
I'd
the
know
games.
anything like that. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's I don't know, just I do my Pokemon when I take the kid to daycare and
Your guy Charles here. Same here, Charles. Preston got me down the Vosh rabbit hole, and I just love.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to this one. Vosh and Destiny, which so both Vosh and Destiny are really, really smart guys, but at the same time, like they're still like rhetoricians, and so they'll have good takes, and then they definitely have takes that are, kind of illusionary takes, where it's just kind of the words. And this goes for right wingers too. I mean, Ben Shapiro is all rhetoric and no content, and so sometimes they have really good takes, and then sometimes they don't. But this is like any human being, and I do wonder how much they're even aware of them all. They both are very flawed human beings on a personal level, and like have clear like social problems, like both of them, and they hate each other. They both hate each other to a degree that's just like so hilarious, like, and then when they start criticizing each other and they're so vicious to each other when they have nearly the same beliefs, it's very funny. But it's I don't know. You're still watching some Vosh, Carmine?
I love when he debates crazy leftists because I love the catchphrase. I can't believe I'm talking to a leftist. I love that shit. Mwah! I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So Vosh debates really far left and then really far right people, and then Destiny debates every single person under the sun, everybody. So it's kind of interesting sometimes to just click in and see what they're up to. You get some good ideas on on stuff. But I don't know. Then when he's debating these people, I'm just like, how do these people exist out there? It's so sad and depressing that some of these like absolute crazies.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I get flack every time I say it, but it's so fucking true. When I was in high school, my group of friends, nobody knew anything political unless it was like Obama, because first black presidential candidate. Other than that, nobody fucking cared about Marxists, Lenin, fucking Stalin, Mao. No one could fucking point to where North Korea was on the map.
Right.
Not because they were idiots, but because they were kids.
Mhm.
And I firmly believe, and I hope you'll back me up on this, because it's kind of true. When you're kind of, and this is sad, but when you're kind of lonely and you don't have a girlfriend or much friends, you kind of look to society. That's the problem, instead of maybe you. And you kind of want to change society in a sense, and you start looking at other societies that may have worked or maybe better, even though you never lived under them, and thus how we get these Marxists and all these other guys.
Yeah. Now, in truth, both of them, I mean, both of them, I think, are doing good for the world. The same with like Hassan Piker, in the fact that they're bringing people into political spheres and like having people engage in politics and things like that. I think that's great. But at the same time, they still look at politics a little too theoretically. And so when people start talking about things like axioms and your philosophical base and whether you should be a deontologist versus utilitarian, you've lost, like, you're not seeing the forest for the trees anymore. Like you're kind of lost, because real life happens on the micro policy change level. And you should be really focused on issues that are here at hand that we can change. If people are really looking for like, who do I really like agree with most politically, it's probably like David Pakman or the Majority Report with Sam Cedar. Like
I was about to say Sam Cedar's your guy, I feel like.
Yeah, they're just but at the same time, like they're not as entertaining, right? They're not as entertaining as like Bosch like having a debate with a Nazi, So
that is true.
Right, but those, like David Pakman, like everything he says, I'm like, yeah, no, that's pretty much what I believe. Like I'm just like, and so in many ways it's not that interesting, because it's just like, well, it's just me. I'm just repeating, like I'm listening to someone repeat what my own thoughts, So it's interesting to kind of see like extreme fringe stuff.
And to the person who said, is it like clean your room stuff? No, that's like Peterson stuff. All I'm saying is, when I was in high school, I was more worried about going to see the latest movie, or playing Halo with my friends, or hanging out with my girlfriend. Same, I'm assuming same with Preston. Like, not to be crude, but anyone getting laid is not really a Stalin apologist or a Mao apologist. Like, who the fuck cares?
My only real exposure to, I mean, I had political beliefs in high school, but my real exposure to like new ideas came from listening to punk rock. And so, it's just like,
Preston, let's not get political now, please.
Yeah. I mean, like the education of Bad Religion and No Effects on my mind, like at the age of like 16, 17 was pretty big. But
right, but you're listening to music, and a lot of music, has those political undertones and all that stuff. Even way back when, you grew up in, the golden era of the 80s. I'm watching Stranger Things now. It's just the 80s. I wish I would have born in the 80s.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't anything like that.
Stop ruining my dreams.
Wasn't anything like that. Stranger Things, like, how are they still in the 80s? Hasn't it been like 10 years? This is like that 70s show. Like, shouldn't it be like 1992? How old are these kids?
To the guy who asked, was this in Kansas? I'm not from Kansas. I'm from, sometimes I tone down the Jersey, New York accent, but not in Kansas. Oh, by the way, what was I going to say? You mentioned the Star Wars black people. And the right. Did you see what I put on Twitter?
Let me bring it up.
I don't think I did. I'm one of the two people you're following. So I think it's me and George, and maybe Glidus. I think
I follow Trey the Explainer.
There you go. Yay! I messaged them to see if we could get on. So basically, some weirdo dipshit incel was basically saying how I'll read it off to you.
Yeah.
I think he wrote a review for Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic, and he
Ah,
said the show is called Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Reva the Third Sister. Reva has gotten more screen time than the actual character this show is named after. So you and I both saw episode 3. We did the review on it.
I mean, that's
I went
certainly not true, but
well, I
like
went back. I went just because I went back, re-downloaded. I mean, went on Disney
yeah.
Plus and watched the episode again, and I counted. She has less than 7 minutes of screen time. Obi-Wan has like 10 minutes of uninterrupted screen time on that hayride thing you said.
Yeah,
Uh,
just by
this
itself.
this guy is fucking ridiculous. Like these people, just because there's a black person, really, you're all gonna flip out, really? Stop. It's unnecessary.
Well, this is why I'm wondering if if these YouTube like things that rave about or are angry about it like make people think that it's okay to think that way or that their thoughts are somehow valid. Like, well, some other idiot said the same thing, so therefore it must be okay. Which is a lot of political beliefs. Like, you have some crazy fucking idea, but then somebody else comes to the same crazy fucking idea, and you're like validated. You're like, oh, I guess it's not that crazy. But you know, it
I
is.
keep having to explain to Europeans and like non-Americans, you guys, I feel so bad for like Australians because my boy Vince was talking about this as well, and he hates like American politics bleeding into
Mm.
Australians. A friend of mine from Canada was telling me how a Canadian got arrested, and they said something along the lines as, "I know my First Amendment rights." Bro, in Canada? What are you talking about? And like because they're consuming the culture war over there, and it's
Yeah.
bleeding into like everybody. I feel bad for you guys out there. I really do.
God,
It's really
I
bad.
was Samantha Bee had a woman show up to the had a reporter show up to the NRA convention, and she was like, so you're all for Second Amendment rights. He's got a shirt that says, I love the Second Amendment and things like that. And she's like, what is the Second Amendment? I swear to God, like no one could fucking recite it. No one. They're like the right to bear arms. They're like, right, but like the whole thing. Like they're like, oh, I don't know the whole length of it. And she's like, it's one sentence. Like, because she wanted them to say the first part, which is well-regulated militia, but no one knew that part.
A lot of people don't know where North Korea is too, which is
I
they
know.
want to go to war with North Korea. They don't know where it is.
What are your favorite lesser-known A Song of Ice and Fire content creators? I mean, besides Dragon Demands, I think everybody
Oh,
pretty.
you just made
He's
his
the only one
day.
that I'm saying is underrated. Like everybody
Oh, okay.
else that does The Song of Ice and Fire content is pretty known. Um, you know, the
Made his day.
yeah. I mean, I don't think you're gonna get any like new or interesting information from too many. I mean, certain people have a unique perspective. David Lightbringer has his unique perspective. If you want something that's kind of like easy to understand and like very mainstream, you've got Alt Shift X, who this is another one where it's like I think his Alt Swift X content is actually better, but fewer people watch that. But I don't necessarily think there's anybody else that like has any interesting or new content or anything to say. And there's definitely a bunch that I'm just like, how does this channel exist? But I don't want to throw too much shade on them. But
It's tough.
but
I feel bad for you because it's tough. It's tough with the mind. Take a shot. I said it. Take a shot. It's tough because it's a minefield because so many random people hate you and me because I'm
oh, and,
associated
and
with
Glidus
you.
is really funny. I forgot to mention Glidus. He'll probably
Glidus is no. First off, Glidus is gonna hit 100K in like a couple of months,
that's true.
and we got to take a shot with him. Celebrate. But out of all the people you mentioned, Dragon Demands, I like him because he actually goes out in the field and does the work.
Oh, it's new. That's the thing is like original content, something new, something that's like actually there. Not some like regurgitation of a 2017 Reddit post that was poorly researched, not something clickbaity, like something that's like, where you're actually like gaining knowledge, like new original knowledge that you're not going to find anywhere else. Like, why bother with anything else, except for the kind of stuff that I've mentioned,
Well,
But
my message Dragon Demands. We're singing his praises, and he's nowhere to be found. Oh.
no, I mean no one does his research like Dragon Demands.
I love him. I'll hit him up privately, like every now and then, just to see how he's doing. I'll be like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I don't even know his real name. I'm like, "What's up, DD? How you doing? Double D, what's going on? You doing okay?" And because he's a barbarian, he'll go, "Of course I'm okay. Did I give you an impression I wasn't okay?"
The thing is, he actually doesn't want to be bigger because he thinks he might get in trouble with his parents. Like if his channel gets too big.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Well, I'm not going into that.
What's the best place in the fanfic to insert a golden theta? Ancient scrolls at the Citadel with Bran in the far north, deep inside Storm's End. I think something like that. But I think if we're gonna have a golden theta, it would be like right at the end of the story. Maybe a little, but it'd have to be something very, very ancient. I mean, they did it in the show, I suppose, in different places, in like caves of the children of the forest and stuff like that. But yeah, it'd have to be very, very subtle, something really, really old. But it would be something like deep inside Storm's End, or on some ancient rune from the first men of the children of the forest, that kind of stuff. And then I'm gonna see. Been bugging me at the Purple Wedding. Why did Tyrion pour out the leftover wine? Oh, because he was freaking caught with it. He thought that there was poison in it, and he didn't want to be sitting there holding a poison, and so he knew it was going to happen. He knew that, like, that point, like, oh crap. But I suppose, because I mean, who knows where the poison was, whether it was in the pie or whether it was in the wine, but he thought it was in the wine, certainly. And dropped it because he didn't want to. He had the murder weapon right there. Essential Song of Ice and Fire theories. These days, I've watched a lot of channels, but mostly goof off with Kenitro on Reddit. I've read Bran Vras, Can't Use, Holloway Division. Never really been on World of Ice and Fire forum though. There's nothing on the World of Ice and Fire forum that you're going to find that's new. Sometimes you'll find like a very interesting small point from a random user, but it's not a place to post like long thought out theories because of the nature of it. Like the posts go up via time, right? So like if you post something within a certain amount of time, it's going to be gone. And so why would you post like a really long thought out theory that's not going to linger for very long? It'll linger on Reddit more. I mean, the reason that I even started my YouTube channel was the fact that like posts on the board like weren't being seen, because like somebody would post something about R plus L equals J, and then boom, who's the greatest fighter in Westeros? Boom, and then you spent all this time on a theory and then it's gone. So I mean, people will do the longer theories on Reddit. There's I think if this is it. I'm sorry, I didn't put this up. Essential theories. I think there's a fun one if you haven't read the Harrenhal theory. I think that's a very good one to read on Reddit. But if you put in let me see if the Harrenhal theory Reddit, if you want a good read. Yeah, the Harrenhal conspiracy part 1. I think that's a fun one. If you haven't read that, who's that by? That is by King Littlefinger. That's a fun one. I don't know if it's necessarily true or not. I've never gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, but if you're looking for something
King
fun to
Littlefinger can't be
read,
wrong, can they?
everybody's wrong. Everybody's wrong because the series is never going to be finished. So. I always thought George said that Cersei would die in the Winds of Winter. Cersei and Sansa would die in the Winds of Winter. I don't think George would ever say anything that revealing. Let's see here. Let's get ahead here. Oh man, I'm way behind. I always feel so bad. When they made Hermione black, how did you feel about Hermione being black, Carmine? I think the joke of Hermione being black is that it changes nothing, right?
Uh, it's what annoys me is that was that you or me?
Is
I
that
think it
you?
was me.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, who's this?
It's Glidus.
Oh, hey, Glidus.
Hello.
What's been going on?
Thought I'd drop on in.
Because you wanted to know about, you wanted to comment on Hermione being black?
I'm pretty sure there's a passage, I think it's in The Prisoner of Azkaban, where it said that her skin was pale. I think it's just mentioned once in passing.
Oh.
It's not that important.
No, not at all. I mean, it's not like she ever brings up being being treated differently
Yeah.
on that front. But but I suppose she could be pale and black.
But like, given how heavy-handed Rowling is with every other character's race when they're not white, you'd think that she would mention it if Hermione was black.
She was also heavily involved in casting for the movies, so it doesn't, like, had she really intended that, like, I mean, it's probably just a tongue-in-cheek retcon that she decided to put in, but I don't know, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, so how are things going?
I'm crook today. I'm a bit cactus.
Oh, really? You're
Do
not
these
so.
words mean anything to
You're not so. Fuck. What was the word? Chuffed. You're not feeling chuffed.
Yeah, I'm not too flash at the moment.
So you've been surfing this morning, and then and then you decided to have a Barbie in the afternoon.
Yeah, stopped at the pub for a couple of VB, and then
was there rugby on? Did you
rugby? You know nothing.
Was there Australian football on? I don't.
Yeah, that's actually what we call it.
God damn it.
Sorry, mate, can't go out tonight. Watching the Australian football.
The Australian football. That's right. We Americans call it American football all the time. Yes, because
that's rugby.
That's rugby.
You want to call my sport rugby?
Australian football has different rules than rugby, though.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to have a pint in the middle, right? And then you actually literally have to headbutt each other after every play.
Yeah. And when the emus come out onto the field, it's just such a mess.
Yeah.
Where does emu come from? I know that, like, don't Americans call them emus?
Yeah, we call them emus.
Like they're cows from the internet?
I mean, wait. Well, how do you pronounce them differently?
Emu.
Emu.
With a
you put a little diphthong into it. Emu. Emus. Yeah. There's some funny. We'll talk about accents, because Carmine doesn't think he has an accent, but he has like a wonderful Jersey accent.
Shut the fuck up, Carmine. I don't have an accent. What are you talking about?
That's right.
You kind of don't. Like, you don't sound like, I know a couple Australians, and they sound like Australians. You kind of sound.
Oh, we can ham it up when
we
need to.
Okay, just a little bit.
There's also, like, being from Sydney and Melbourne, and like, versus being from Alice Springs is going to be a big difference,
Yeah, you can put on the ochre, come from fucking Bendigo. There's quite a bit of difference between your, upper class Brighton, how you doing, darling, kind of inner city, sophisticated Australian accent, and then the broad motherfucker, crikey, how you going, cunt?
There it is. That's what now you do.
Because you've heard Steve Irwin growing up, and that's what you expect, and Crocodile Dundee.
Right.
And that's basically all that people expect from us is crocodile-associated pop culture figures, which I one day hope to become.
Now, to be fair, like when I travel in Europe, like, so first off, apparently Jerry Springer was very popular in Europe. And so like for many, many years of like in my 20s, like being at hostels, people are just like, what's up with fucking America, man? Like you just all seem to be a bunch of like completely obese like hicks. And I'm like, well, it's true we are, but why would you think that? You know, it's like, and they apparently had all seen Jerry Springer. And that was giving them the accurate representation of my country. But, I try to explain that like, well, on the East Coast, we're like somewhat rational people. I don't know. And then over time, I'm just like, fine, you're right. We're all fucking Jerry Springer. God damn it. Like eventually you're going to be like, look, I get it. We're a bunch of fucking boomerang throwing, like emu riding, people fearing
Sometimes
the 17 deadly spiders,
Foreigners ask me, so did you guys like ride kangaroos to school or something? And I was like, yeah, only the rich kids.
Only the rich kids. But people ask me about the gun stuff a lot with America, which isn't necessarily like it's true that the guns people are very loud and they seem to be going into schools and slaughtering innocent children. But at the same time, like, it's a big minority of Americans that actually own guns, Like I do
Aren't
not.
there like 1 billion guns owned by Americans?
Right. Because the people that own them own like 30. But
yeah.
Like, he's not wrong. Every now and then my boy Connor will send me a video of him on Snapchat taking a shower and his shotgun will be right in the corner. Right in the fucking, I don't know why, it's just right there in the corner. And I asked him why. He goes, just in case someone tries to rob me in the shower. Dude, in the shower? Really? Hey, people just love guns out here.
Does he bathe with battle armor on?
No, he doesn't. He just has a shotgun in the shower. I don't know why. He just does.
In case.
Yeah,
that's clever.
Yes.
One third of Americans own guns. So 1/3 of American households, can't count children, but yeah. But the but I actually think that perhaps the gun thing, I mean, I think it's become psycho on its own, but I think it a lot has to do with commercialism and identity being formed by what we consume. Like even this has happened with geek culture. Like you can't just be a geek, and know a lot about something. People feel the need to like buy Funko Pops and like and like every version,
be a part of a community, form a cultural identity around this thing that they enjoy.
Yeah,
I guess,
and have the little figurines and stuff like that. So I just don't know. I've never owned that many of those kinds of things. I'm not sure if like the inside of your guys' houses are like, Star Wars action figures and like in cases or what, but I never really had too much of that. But then again, it's mainly, I move around a lot, so I don't want to have a lot of shit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Carmine, how many action figures did you ship to Kansas?
I don't have any more, unfortunately. I didn't have anything. Unfortunately. Do I have anything in here? No, I don't. No, I don't have anything. I used to love like buying like Gundams and like building them, like the master grade ones, and building them like all these little pieces. And then after I would build them, I would just like pose them up. I used to that eons ago, but I don't have any more anything like that.
But there's something to like a physical object. I read that sales wise, if you can actually make somebody touch something, their chances of buying it like skyrocket. So like in some countries, like you get onto a bus and somebody will like pass out the object that they're selling, like it's, I don't know, socks or something. And then, by the next stop, he collects all the socks back. But because the person has touched the socks, they feel connected to it and then they want to actually like buy it, or having people test drive a car and things like that is once they're test driving it, they're much more likely to actually purchase it. And so there's something to like this idea of having like a physical object in your hand and feeling connected to something. So I guess that must be the thing with like geek culture and like the commercialization of geek culture and the commercialization of like gun ownership, forming identity.
I have like 6 Game of Thrones Funko Pops, and I didn't buy any of them. They're all given to me.
This is the problem, right? People don't know what to give you, so they're like, oh, what do I know about that person? Oh, they're really into Game of Thrones. I've gotten a bunch of action figures too, where I'm just like, okay. I've never bought any myself, but yeah, some birthday will come and my wife like buys me a mug that says like House Seaworth, I'm like, okay, that's nice. I've tried
doesn't know enough about you.
I've tried like 5 or 6 different bottles of Game of Thrones wine because like people didn't know what to give me for.
Around the release of season 8, they were coming out. They made this like promotional scotch. There was like White Walker scotch.
Oh yeah,
you were supposed to put in the freezer before you drank it, like serve it at freezing temperature. It was fucking terrible. The bottle was cool though.
This is so in America, we have our whiskeys, Jack, Johnny, and Jim Beam.
Yeah.
So the secret is that actually, like, when it comes to cheaper liquor, if you want to get drunk on whiskey cheaper, it turns out Jim Beam is actually kind of the easiest to go down. But if you want to spend more money and you want like the fancy stuff, you can go get Johnny Walker or something. But like the low level Johnny Walker, like Black Label is shit. But like if you go higher to like these gold labels or whatever, if you're willing to shell out $100 or blue labels, then they're okay. But if you just want to cheaply get drunk on something that'll go down easy, like you go with Jim Beam, that's just
tried and true.
Yeah, I know. It's like
bourbon is so easy to drink. Like children could do it. I reckon.
Oh, I mean,
not that they should.
Why they dip pacifiers in bourbon and kids. I told you guys once about like the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen in my life. I went to Afghanistan once for work, and we had to see we were seeing different grants that the U.S. government was giving out, and we gave grants to this home that took in children who were addicted to opium, and so I visited this home, and it was like a bunch of like 5-year-olds, like this pack of Afghan 5-year-olds who had all gotten addicted to opium. And you're kind of like, how is this possible? Like, how can you have just like dozens of kids like addicted to opium? And they're like, well, there's a couple reasons. One, like if a baby's crying, like you blow some opium in its face, and it can cause it to not cry, teething, baby's teething, and things like that. And then the other thing is like if you're addicted to opium yourself and you're falling on the ground passed out, it's monkey see, monkey do, and the kid picks it up and smokes it himself and gets addicted. You're like, oh God, like that's the world we live in. Anyway, I'm sure all those kids are doing great.
That's Slumdog Millionaire story,
Yeah. What leftist or left-leaning content creators who isn't a tanky do you think the most harmful for the left? Jimmy Dore comes to mind. Jimmy Dore isn't really left-leaning. Like he's a fake. He's a complete fake. Yeah. I mean, these on.
He drives me mad.
I mean, yeah. It's there are some people that like claim they're from the left and they say weird things. Like Tim Pool claims that he was a liberal once, or
so does Dave Rubin.
Yeah, Dave Rubin stuff, and you're like, and sometimes you like hear them and they're like, oh yeah, no, totally, I was a Democrat. Like I really believed in tax and spend. And you're like, what? Like, and then I came to think that no, freedom was the way. And you're like, wait, really? Like, that's how you're gonna. I really believed that controlling people's lives was the way to go. But then, like it's like they say something crazy where you're just like, no, you were never left leaning. So I don't know any left leaners that besides tankies who are harmful or toxic. But I mean, I know some tankies that are, but I haven't really paid attention to it too much. I just figure anybody that pulls you in into general, left-wing thought, which has to do with empathy and trying to create a better system, and gets you politically engaged is gonna probably be a good influence. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anybody that's like nuts. I don't know. You guys know anybody?
I'm sure they're there. I don't engage in too much political shit on YouTube.
Well, Australia's in a good place right now, right? You just had a really great election, right?
I was fucking elated.
So
it's been a long time since I've shortly after he was elected, Albo went to this summit in Tokyo where he met Biden and Modi and whoever that bloke who's in charge of Japan is. And for the first time in like a decade, I was like, I'm not embarrassed. It was incredible.
Yeah, it is. And what's frustrating to me is that like when Americans do something, even if by mistake, because like when Trump was elected, he was a minority candidate, and yet everybody took it like, oh, there's this red wave coming, and then all the Europeans and other countries were like, oh no, like let's be hip and be like completely like offensive fascist or whatever, which was odd. You're like, wait, but no, like Americans actually didn't vote that way. We just have a really screwed up representation system, it's frustrating because then it starts feeding on itself. In a loop. So what do you think was the conservative movement that caused the Australia to go left in a swing? Like what bad shit happened that made everybody go, fuck.
Okay.
Yeah,
so the incumbent prime minister at the time, that's not what incumbent means. Going on holiday to Hawaii when the country was burning to death, that was a pretty big sign for a lot of people. He delayed vaccination acquisition by a year out of incompetence. I think that did it for most people.
So that's kind of funny because it's also kind of interesting.
There was also a lot of Liberal seats because like the way you form government in Australia, like any other Westminster system, is by having enough representatives to form a majority government in the House. There were enough like independents that kind of like nabbed seats from Liberal candidates who were like politically adjacent but different enough to make a difference to voters. So the Liberals lost a whole mess of seats, which left the Labour Party in a more favourable position. They won a majority on their own anyway, so that didn't cause the election, but that was a big part of the election.
What's frustrating is when, I mean, I'm happy that something random like him going on vacation and being a dumbass, like helped, but that was kind of like flipping a coin, right? Like that could have happened to anybody. Like the incompetency had nothing to do with his political leanings. It's sort of like Boris Johnson, like being unpopular by having like fucking parties or whatever, or Hillary's emails. Like they have nothing to do with like the political party, but then they can cause these huge swings randomly and cause huge policy changes, even though they don't really have anything to do with actual policy. I wish people actually voted on policy, but
yeah. Well, here's one for you. There was that like whole debacle with the defense deal that we had like submarines with France that he just tore that contract up, like Cersei in the throne room in episode 7. Yeah. and that was like such a huge international blunder that a lot of people were very upset about. So there's a policy thing that there you go. There's also a looming housing crisis. Wages have stagnated for 2 decades. What else do you want from me? People.
I mean, we got that in America.
There's this cycle in Australia where every like 30 years or so, okay, it's time to bring in a leftist government who's actually going to try and do something.
Right, and then the problems are too deep, and so everybody kind of goes, I guess we tried it for a second.
These guys aren't doing anything anyway. We need to vote in the Conservatives to stop a big problem from happening.
Right, or not vote. That'll teach them. You're like, oh god.
Voting is compulsory here.
That's nice. Oh my god, what a fucking.
Also, elections are always on a Saturday.
Yeah,
and you get a free sausage. You get a free freedom snag.
Have you watched The Boys yet?
No, I have not.
I mean, I won't
spoilers.
I won't spoil much, but like The Boys this season is so they have a character that is supposed to be AOC. She's this young, attractive, inspirational, like congressional representative from New York who and you're like, okay, we got it. It's supposed to be AOC. And in a general sense, she's supposed to represent Democrats, and then you've got Homelander who is acting very Trump-like this season. So like, and they're trying to make a statement about how, well, we get behind the Democrats because we think that they're going to make a difference, but they're all owned by the corporatists anyway. And then, kind of justifies like, oh, but we love like the Trumpists because they're sick of apologizing and they'll just be bastards, and part of us wants to be one likes being bastards, and so they push this forward, but I don't necessarily think it's super accurate, but it's that interesting concept that we try voting for Democrats, but they're just as corrupt, or they're just owned by corporate interests. I don't necessarily think that that's actually the reality on the ground. Like, yeah, they're owned by corporate interests, but I don't think that's the reason people are turned off by them. Like I think people just get, at least in America, they just get tired, or they forget about it. They forget that there's this looming threat from like right wingers. But anyway, I don't know. I wish the Boys had a more cohesive political message. They're trying to be political, but I'm not sure if what they're saying actually is, relevant. They're just kind of throwing a bunch of political ideas at a wall. I'm going to quickly grab a few super chats here. Okay, can you use Gray Area's method for House of the Undying but correctly interpret the visions for us? Essentially, visions are chronologically reversed and questions are answered literally in order. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'll bring up House of the Undying.
When they crack out the House of the Undying visions.
Yeah, I know. Okay, there's what's a word that's gonna be for my filter to bring it up real quick. Daenerys. He's going to be smiling. That's right. All right. Okay. Reverse chronologically. Let's see. So reverse chronologically, we have Viserys screamed as molten gold ran down his cheeks and filled his mouth. A tall lord with copper skin and silver gold hair stood beneath the banner of a fiery stallion, a burning city behind him. Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince. So right there, I think just reading those three, we can kind of say that they're not chronological, because our first one, we have Viserys dying, which we know happened in a Game of Thrones. And then we have, which is the present. And then we have a tall lord with copper skin and a silver gold hair stood beneath a banner of a fiery stallion. That's supposed to be Rhaego, which is going to be the future. And then we have rubies flying like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, which is clearly in the past. So right there, I can't really say that they're chronological.
I think people who try to make concrete sense of these visions have never done psychedelics. You know, George is a hippie, right? And
yeah.
We know what he's done.
Yes.
And I don't know. I don't think there's a concrete order and literal message behind, taking the whole. He's also a very methodical fantasy writer, so there is credence to trying to figure this kind of shit out, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely trying to make them happen. I don't. But sometimes he'll make a vision happen, and then he'll have it happen again for no reason. Like, why did Daenerys's mother vision have to happen twice? Or like, if we're thinking about like Jon growing cold in a room by himself, like that's why does that happen twice or more than twice? It might happen 3 times. Like I don't know like how much George really plans stuff out and how much he's just making up as he goes along and things like that. Like he made a corpse stood at the prow of a ship, eyes bright in his dead face, gray lips smiling sadly. Like, he really forced that one in there with Victorian in the Victorian sample chapter. Like he went out of the way to write this like long paragraph that didn't really have anything to do with the rest of the paragraph, the rest of the chapter, just to kind of like make it happen. But I think he's just cramming them in. I don't necessarily think they're in chronological or reverse chronological. If they're in literal versus, how much is abstract. I think, like, take rubies flying like drops of blood from the chest of the dying prince. Like, clearly that's supposed to be Rhaegar at the trident. But if later on George finds a really fun time to have somebody else have rubies fly like drops of blood from them, he's going to fucking put it in. Like,
of course.
Like, I don't necessarily think he's even
and
like
everyone. You just know that everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, he planned that so far in advance." It's like, no.
Had he planned stuff far in advance, I don't think we'd be here like 11 years later.
That same guy sent a super chat just now, another $10, lucky you. Saying, "Fuck, sorry, I didn't mean right now. I meant interpret it as a future content piece." That's a tall order.
Okay.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I mean, I've never done like straight up like House of the Undying stuff, which I've been asked a million times, and I'm sure if you go through all of my content, you'll find a lot of like different beliefs on it, but which have changed. I used to think they're all bullshit, and now like time traveling Bran kind of like changes my ideas. Like, maybe time traveling Bran saw something from a alternate future. Like, for instance, Rhaego. Like, I didn't think Rhaego like ever existed, but now like maybe he did exist in an alternate time traveling Bran timeline. I don't know. Huh.
What do you mean by never existed?
Well, so originally I had this. My notion was like, look, I didn't believe in time travel when I first read the story. I was part of the denial camp. Where I was like, no, there's no time travel in Ice and Fire. That would be fucking stupid. What kind of idiot would put time travel like in the middle of fucking book 5 when the story's getting away from you? Like, oh God.
I know what this series needs, so I can start pulling it back in.
Right. We need fucking time travel. So I was denying. So then I was like, okay. I got to the point where I read enough of George's stuff where I was like, well, he also doesn't believe in destiny. George R. Martin is definitely somebody that believes in like free will. And in almost everything he's written, like prophecies have been like fake tricks from people, tricks from aliens mainly, to make people do stupid things. So I was fairly convinced that all the House of the Undying visions were bullshit. Like,
yep.
And some people are like, well, what about the ones that like clearly like came true, like the Red Wedding? And I was like, well, the Red Wedding's idea existed at the time. If you read somebody's mind, like Tywin's mind at the time, like you could extract the Red Wedding and then put it in there if you wanted. And so that fit nearly everything. I think there are a few that probably cannot be explained through just looking at the events on the map and extrapolating. And I think a major one is Danny like beneath the mother of mountains with the Dosh Colleen kneeling, for example, or her going, a lot of stuff like that would be really hard to predict. Because Danny has no idea she's going to do that. So how do you figure it out? Like, oh no, I totally knew. Like I could completely plan the fact that Drogo is going to pick her up and take her off in the middle of Dothraki Sea and then drop her off and then abandon her and then have the Dothraki bring her to face Dothraki and then have that all happen.
And then again, that could just be them showing her, what they think she might want to see or what they want her to see instead of it being prophetic. It's just a projection of a possible future. Yeah, I see where you're going with this, but I just want to rein the question back in. By you thinking that Rhaego never existed, did you mean that, like, he was never alive? He was never...
Oh, no. I mean, I think, he either was a stillbirth or
right
or George left it open that he's still alive and he was whisked away. What I meant is that adult Rhaego in front of a burning city never existed. I know.
Right,
I mean,
but that very well could have existed in an alternate, like, Bran affected timeline. Right.
So now, if we have time traveling Bran, like it could have happened, and then time traveling Bran went back in time and changed it. Like that is now a possibility. Despite his hair being all weird, because usually with like a lot of people point to the fact that like, wait, usually when Targaryens interbreed, the hair is the first to go. In this situation,
Valyrian genes seem to be very recessive. Yeah, but we actually don't know how well they interact with Dothraki genes at all. Like, who's to say that Dothraki genes aren't recessive as well?
It's true, absolutely true. I mean, we'd have to get that. We'd have to have Ned Stark do some super sleuthing.
Get the Punnett squares out.
get the Punnett squares out. Have a nice book of the history of all Dothraki kings and which ones intermarried with Valyrians, and he could figure it out. Fuck, marry, kill. Glidus in Emilia Clarke's body, Carmine in Natalie Dormer's body, George and Lena Headey's body. Well, I mean,
fucking weird, bro. Like
this is so strange.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, I know.
Ban him right now.
It's weird, but I mean, you gotta go with,
anyway.
You gotta go with. I mean, Natalie Dormer is the one that I think excites me the most. But
just take this asshole's money, just ban his ass. That's what I do.
That's fine. It's funny enough. This is another weird one. Carmine, why is your friend sending you a video of him in the shower?
A lot of I have a lot of like insane like dude bro friends from like way back when in high school, and I still am like, luckily enough, am still friends with all these guys, and they've moved on. They have like wives and like jobs and all that stuff. Yeah. So my boy, his girlfriend he has his girlfriend record him, and he's in the shower and he'll do something stupid or he'll say something stupid. I never see him naked or anything, but I'll always see his shotgun in the fucking corner every fucking time. And I asked him like, why do you keep that there? And he's like, yeah, in case I get robbed while I'm in the shower. You got to be prepared all the time. He has like I think a 3-bedroom house for like him and his girl, and then like his game room, and then like just a separate room for all his guns, because he has like 30 guns.
It's
all this stuff.
It's a weird idea to think that that you're going to be attacked in your home and in your shower. Like, that's a very odd, like, I mean, first off,
let me preface this by saying he lives in Chicago. That should explain everything.
I mean, I get it. Like, I live on the south side of Chicago. Like, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if somebody breaks in and they hear you in the shower, are they going to approach you in the shower? Or are they going to take your shit and leave? Or first, they'll probably leave immediately if they hear the shower on. But if they don't leave immediately, they're going to take some shit and then leave before you get out of the shower. They're not going to go into the shower and then like pull you out naked and like deal with you. That's just not what's going to happen.
So that means the only way you could encounter them is you come out of the shower, you've heard them rummaging through your shit, and you pick up the shotgun. Your hands are soapy and slippery and wet, and you step out. You're dripping. You're your balls have shriveled up because the water was cold,
Sure.
and you're skulking through the hallway, training your shotgun around the corner. It's like that's the least threatening gunman I've ever.
But he's American, so he makes up for it.
Yeah.
He's got the impeccable aim.
Could you imagine if you actually got the gun and then killed the guy? Like you shot the shotgun, and now like blood is
Do you go back
splattered
to
all
finish
over
your
the
shower?
place. Yeah. Do you now like, oh fuck, I've got blood on myself. I got to go back into the shower, or do you like call the police first? Do you wait there?
And then go back in the shower?
Do you then you get your clothes and like put your clothes on?
You know what's funny?
This
Like
is
the
why
funny
I
thing is, out of all the guys I know who are like out of their fucking minds insane, like he could very well injure himself if that thing slips and fires while he's in there. They could like, but that is the least dangerous things of all the people that I know who send me Snapchats. I had one guy who was like on a motorcycle, doing stuff with his girlfriend while they're like going down the highway, like they're having like sexual stuff going down the highway while she's filming it. And
what's that Charlie Sheen movie with there's that Charlie Sheen movie with the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? You know what I'm talking about? He has sex with her like while driving.
Oh, I forgot the actress's name. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, like that, yeah. I like the guy who goes, he has to stay naked. It's police evidence now. Gotta stay naked.
It's The Chase, is that it? No. Yeah, The Chase. Yeah. Where he has sex while driving a car with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They different, I have to say this, different groups of bros are very weird and different. Like
you're kind of like that too. Kind of. Not like this.
Like my bro friends in high school are very different from my bro friends in college, which are very different from my grad school bro friends, And like some bro friends are really toxic and they like try to do the worst things they can to each other. Like I know groups where they're just like, oh yeah, dude, we like kidnapped our friend and then he had a job interview. So we like drove by and grabbed him. And then we like drove him out to the country. And then we like dumped him out in the country, like 30 miles from the city. And I'm like, why would you fucking do that to your friend? And he was naked. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And the cops are after him. Like, what is wrong? I know.
Why would you do that to your friend? And he's like, oh, he got us back. Like what? God, like I had one friend who did that to me once where he like, it was something small. He like took my car keys and he like hid them. And I was like, and I like spent the whole day like looking for my car keys in my apartment. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would you fucking do that? And he's like, I don't know. It's like, never fucking do that again. Like, Jesus. Like, that was my car keys. I didn't get like picked up and dropped naked outside of the city right before I had a job interview. But yeah, some of them are just all about like sending dick pics to each other and shit like that. I can't.
Yeah, it never gets there, thank God. But like, yeah,
they're not gay though.
They're not gay.
Of course, not.
Yeah, no.
The Prime Minister had a press conference to say he didn't shit his pants in McDonald's. This happened.
Do you know this story?
No.
Oh wow! So there's an urban myth that is 100% true that Scotty from marketing, the liar from the Shire himself, cacked his Dax at the Engadine McDonald's after the 1997 NRL Grand Final, and it's just become a part of our cultural mythos that the Prime Minister shit his pants in waiting to be served at a McDonald's in the aftermath of a grueling football loss.
Oh my. That's well, maybe he had.
Oh wait, Presto, real quick. Hold on. I need you to check Facebook real quick. I tried getting Trey on with us as well. Check this. See what he said? Don't say it out loud. Say it out loud.
Do you have something you'd like to share with the class, Carmine?
I'll share with you too. I got you. Dude, this happened. This is like
What's funny is in my head, I actually had that idea. I was like, what is he blank? And then you send me it. I'm like, yup.
This is my fear with you all the time. Like, should I call Price? I've got to do a podcast. Should I call him to alert him? What if he's busy? It's my fear.
It's okay. I'm married. That doesn't happen.
I wonder if chat can figure it out now.
I know. It's true. Put the pieces together. We've got a smart chat. We've been deducing that Sorella is a Laros for years. We can figure this one out.
What are these servers you're in, Carmine, in this screenshot? I'm familiar with that gay porn website, but what's the next one?
God gang, baby. God.
I've heard enough.
The U.S. left being pro home ownership is an anomaly. So the American left does a lot of things to help.
This stream has such tonal whiplash.
I know. I know. So
you almost broke my neck.
The American left. I mean, the Democrats are going to do what helps blue states, and home ownership is very high in blue states, and I mean it's very it's not low in America. Home ownership is pretty high in America, but in order to please them, they're going to do things like having your mortgage tax deductible on your taxes and things like that. The things that help out very wealthy blue state people who and so there's a lot of stuff like that, which and when you give an incentive to own homes like that, having tax deductible mortgage, it's gonna be like that. I'm actually against that. I'm like, why help the rich out like that with tax deductible mortgages? Preston's stance on marijuana, drugs, alcohol. I mean, fun times. What?
He's literally tripping balls right this moment.
I don't think there's much difference. I think marijuana is probably less harmful than alcohol. It's one of these things that, like, on a personal level, I would say, like, look, like, take it easy. Don't do it. I know a lot of people that have ruined their lives with it. Politically speaking, should it all be legal? Fine. Like, there's just so much crime created from it. Where's Australia right now on legalization?
Or like all other social progress, we're taking our sweet time.
Do you have same-sex marriage yet?
We did do that. There was a huge debacle over it. I think it was in the Turnbull years, like, I don't know, 6 years ago. Maybe even more than that. We had a national plebiscite that was a huge waste of money because the representatives already knew that most of the electorate wanted to do it. But yeah, we did implement it a few years back.
So one of the big things that's going to happen here in America is British Columbia in Canada is going to decriminalize all hard drugs.
Right.
Which means that, like
heroin?
Yeah.
Dude.
And the thing is, there's no border on America's north.
Right.
And so it's this huge thing. Like, well, what do you do now? Like, does America have to follow suit? But we've been pretty slow on it. Some people say cigarettes are becoming illegal fast, even though everybody's like, oh, they're legalizing weed, but cigarettes are becoming illegal faster than weed is becoming legal in America, really. So,
really.
I mean, it's really tough to buy cigarettes in America. They're really heavily taxed, and a lot of places you can't buy them unless you're over 21. Well,
isn't that the kind of control that you would implement on all these other drugs as well?
Yeah. I mean, though I guess it's getting pretty easy with weed these days. Like all these like fake doctors are popping up saying, "Oh, we'll give you a prescription real easy for it." Will you guys do some podcast episodes on The Boys season 3? Carmine and I are planning on talking on The Boys. Carmine sent me something. Like he's like The Boys season 3 is out, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it. So I watched the first 3 episodes. I got through it, and I was like, I'm ready to
the
go.
first episode.
And Carmine's like, yeah. I'm like 10 minutes in.
Hold on, I'm on the first episode. You saw. Okay, Glidus, have you seen the first? I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But Glidus,
I haven't watched this show at all.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You got to get on this. I won't spoil anything, but the first 10 minutes of season 3, episode 1, has got to be the most disgusting fucking thing I think I've ever seen on television.
It's pretty gross. The show's pretty gross.
I can't even go into detail. I don't want to. It's so disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Oh my god.
Nice. Where do I watch it? Is it Disney Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, Pirate Bay? What are we talking about?
It's Amazon.
Never mind.
Lord of the Rings channel. I'd see, and at least in America, everybody already has like their Whole Foods Prime membership, so like they just kind of watch it because they already have it. I don't think anyone would get Amazon Prime on its own if it weren't for the fact that it allows you to shop at Whole Foods. But The Boys is really weird because the source material is horrible. The original Boys comic book is dreadful. It's just not interesting or insightful at all. But the show is like 500% better than the comic book. The comic book is trash, and the show is pretty good. I'm not going to say it's the best thing ever. Some people are way into it, but I think it's okay. There's some characters I just hate. Like I really hate female of the species as like a concept. Like her character, she's just horrible. You know what I'm talking about, Carmine?
Female of the species? You mean
Kimiko?
Oh! Why do you hate Kimiko?
Because she's fucking Hello Kitty. That's all she fucking is. Right?
You're gonna have to elaborate. What do you mean? What do you mean?
She's cute. She's Japanese. She doesn't talk.
Once you put it that way, sure. Why
okay.
Not?
She has no mouth. She's and like her French boyfriend who wants to like protect her is just like it's just the most unhealthy fucking way to view women that I could possibly think of. Like, oh gosh, I just you're really cute and you don't talk and I know nothing about you, but I need to like put you on a pedestal and protect you. Like it's just the most unhealthy shit. But and it just like plays right into like the fanboy likeness of the whole thing. Like the fact that
are they doing a commentary on that kind of way of viewing women, or is it just played completely straight?
So they are beginning to bring in elements of it. Now they're kind of like painting the boyfriend as a guy who's just a sucker for like wanting to protect like women that shouldn't be protected, that gets them into trouble. So hopefully they're giving her, but at the same time they're giving her a little more depth in her backstory, But the fact that she's like there as a she's a kick-ass like hot Japanese like character who's like gonna kill people. She's just so basic, and she was basic in the comic book. They're just beginning to maybe add some depth on like maybe it's a bad idea that this guy like falls for these random broken girls that need to be protected. I mean, this is like Tyrion's thing, right?
Yeah.
But keep in mind like it's in this. Most people watching The Boys are not thinking about it cerebrally. Like they're like, oh, it's super violent and super awesome. Yeah.
Titus Andronicus.
So, but
that's what they watched Game of Thrones for the dragons.
Right, it's tits and dragons, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is why I'm kind of mixed on The Boys. Like, I'm leaving it open. Like, hopefully they'll give the show a little more depth, and they are giving it more depth with each season because they're moving more and more away from the source material, and the source material is just trash.
So yes, Manu Popovich, we will. You want to cover it? Put on your channel, present. I'm down.
Yeah, sure. If you have the time, we'll talk about it.
I told Trey to I want to get Trey back on, and apparently one of his friends was an animator on this season. I asked him if he animated the cock because there's a lot of cock in the first episode. So
nice.
I love your Song of Ice and Fire content so much that I put up with your U.S. politics commentary. They are all related.
That's funny. Yeah.
They are all related. This is the funniest. This is one of the funniest like streams we've ever done. You know, that we're just out like all over the place talking about whatever. I had LSD last night. There's 2 parts to the vision: the shit in the rooms, and then the Q&A. Visions are reverse chronological. Could you imagine?
I like.
I'm so far behind. Preston, have you played Disco Elysium? I don't know what that is. Do you guys know what Disco Elysium is?
Yeah, it's a video game.
It's for the digits. To play. Is it fun?
It's an executable file that launches some code that makes graphics display on your screen that you can interact with.
Oh, nice.
Preston doesn't play games. Do these people not realize this?
They'll eventually find out. I don't really read books.
Like, you've been quite vocal about this, and I think you've explained it pretty well in the past.
Yeah, that I get way too addicted to it.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page, and I just get addicted, and that's how I deal with it.
Do you even lift? What's the workout culture in Taiwan? Gyms, dogging everywhere. This is where people are going to start following me. What's your routine as a grown man with a kid? Okay, so once you have a kid, you can't really exercise that much, but you do end up lifting a lot of kid. I try to do some running every once in a while. I try to do some swimming every once in a while. There's a pool in my building, which is all right, you know, but it's never as much as I like. It's pretty hot. It's either raining here or way too hot. But I used to be a bit of a runner. Around 10 years ago, I was running marathons, and then I was trying to run a marathon like maybe 6 years ago, and I got a kidney stone, and was like, fuck. And I got out, and then I never got it back into it. And then the kid and the channel takes so much time. That's the thing. It's exercise. It's like you've got a certain amount of like slices of life that you can dedicate to things, right? So you've got sleep, you've got job, you've got relationship, you've got kid, you've got hobby, right? And when you're young and you're single and you have no kid, it's really easy to get that exercise in. But then you start like taking off slices. You're like, how much sleep can I cut off? How much job can I shirk? How much of my relationship can I cut back and still have a healthy marriage? You've got to make all of these like time choices. And so it's exercise is one of those ones where you're like, well, that's one that you can't, you cut back. I used to work with this guy who he had a pretty big position in government, and he was married with 3 kids, and he was running marathons. And I'm just like, fuck, or not running marathons. He was doing Ironman competitions, which is like,
oh, shit.
Like having run marathons, I know exactly how much time goes into running a marathon. Like you have to dedicate, you have to do six miles a day, 10 clicks a day, on the weekdays, and then a long run on the weekend. So you're essentially like dedicating at least an hour to running, but then you need your prep and your recovery like afterwards, changing and showering. So you're dedicating at least 2 hours an evening to running. And then on the weekends, you're dedicating, at least 6 hours to running, maybe more. And so if you're done to do Ironman, I know it's like, well, now we got to fucking double that, right? Like, cause you're going to be doing like biking and swimming. So you're doing 4 hours in an evening, and then you're dedicating both weekend days to exercise. And it's just like something's got to give. You're not spending any time with your family or something, you know. So I don't know. You make these choices. You make these choices later on. But for the most part, your hobbies completely disappear. You don't have any hobbies. Like this, I only have a Song of Ice and Fire on this channel, you know, because it's like semi-job. Preston's too busy to running in the world to run a marathon. I just, there's no way I could find the time anymore. No way. Like when? When could I dedicate that? Like a daily run? Oh my God. No. This is funny. Preston gets his exercise chasing enemies of the state. Oh, by the way, another thing related to the boys. The boys has no fucking clue how government works. Like none. The fact that like they just hire these random dudes into the CIA who are all working domestically to like the CIA doesn't work domestically. Like that's the whole function of the CIA. And you can't just hire a random dude. Like you got to do background checks. It takes like years. Like it gets so long to get a government job. And then there's this ridiculous thing. So the AOC character who's a congresswoman, she's running the Bureau of Superhero Affairs. And you're like, it's in the wrong fucking branch of government. Like you can't have a congresswoman running a bureau. Bureaus are in the executive. Like what? Oh, hilarious. I'm sure you can relate, right? In Australia.
Yep. Well, it's actually funny because you know our ministries are run by representatives.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
the Prime Minister appoints a cabinet from their party's representatives.
Oh, that's completely different from ours, yeah.
Oh, and senators. They can appoint senators as well.
Yeah, no, we have a very strict balance of power in that respect. So like congressmen and everything cannot like touch our federal agencies because they're all under the executive, all under the president.
And how's that going for you?
I mean, I would say that like that separation is going pretty well because what happens is Congress has all the purse strings. So if they really want to shut something down, they can just defund it. And meanwhile, like we're not influenced by like political decisions. Like the as Trump would call it, the deep state, of which I'm a member, is very apolitical. Like we're not Democrats and Republicans. Well, if we were ruled by some congressman, like that's all we'd be doing. So it's kind of nice that we can do stuff that's, and you know, the executive agencies, like we exist no matter who's president. So like we still do our work outside of like the political sphere and influence, which is pretty great. I mean, you know, like I work alongside with, you know, people that voted for Republicans, and we're able to get our work done. It's not done for political. It's not supposed to be done for political reasons. You're supposed to be objective. I mean, I remember a lifetime ago, I used to work as an economic research analyst for Social Security, and at the time, like Bush 2 wanted our agency to write a bunch of great things about how personal accounts are the best thing since sliced bread, but we wouldn't do it. We were all objective and like would only put out reports saying like, no, it's a mixed bag, you know.
Right.
So it works okay.
When the president changes, when you get a new president, like nothing else really changes. Just the person in charge of the executive branch is now a different person.
He has some political appointees who lead the agencies here and there that can change. And so you sometimes do get like directional changes, but like on the very, very high level, but it's never in the weeds, and they can't really change the work that you've already started, which usually takes years. And so it's like,
so This is
Yeah.
part of why they say that like a president's legacy takes several decades to be cleared, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's kind of nice in that respect. I mean, and it's just also like federal employees, like the reason they go into government is because they tend to be true believers, and they tend to believe, in the system, in government, in the system, and they don't want to be influenced and controlled by these politicals.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know, it's not so bad. It's, I mean, when you work in government, like there's certain things about it that like I'm exposed to where I, where you kind of become jaded. And then there's other things where you're like, oh, this is actually really, really fantastic. Like because it's so inefficient, like the president can't actually like use it to cause much trouble. Which is a funny thing when I start thinking about like movies and how everybody claims that movies are really woke, but there's certain things I kind of explain where I'm like, actually, like, if you think about it this way, it's a really conservative idea. So every time government is portrayed in movies, it's always this super efficient agency that rolls in with a bunch of black Suburbans and guys with earpieces, and they're like, get this, do, and they have infinite funds, and they're able to get all this fucking stuff done like really fast, really efficiently. And that's just like, to portray government as well funded and efficient is such an odd idea, because like, okay, now bring that to the voter. Like, your taxes, do you think your taxes are too high? And they'll be like, well, the movies tell me that fucking government is like has way too much funding, so let's cut the taxes. And you're like, well, most of government is like social security and education and like paying people's like
No. It's people rolling up in the streets with headsets.
Right. Like, what branch of government does that? Like, like secret
Hollywood.
Right. Like, there aren't these agencies that like, even the FBI, like, I think people will be surprised. I think the FBI has fewer than 10,000 agents. And so like people think about like, oh, well, we've got this like federal police force of the FBI that can just roll in and do shit. And it's like, actually, no, you don't. Like, I think how many FBI agents are there? Oh, okay. There's 35,000 special agents. But
that we know of.
Yeah, but you split that up and you say, okay, well, there's 330 million Americans. So, like, so that's one agent per 100,000? No, per, how many? Oh, gosh, I've got to do my fucking math here. 330 million divided by 305,000. That's one agent for every 10,000 people, So, how much can they really,
busy agents?
And that's right. What can they really get done? But we're incredibly, government's not well funded, and we get nothing done. Like, that's the first thing. And we how do you feel about Rick and Morty? Have you guys watched Rick and Morty past like season 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? So hasn't it been kind of influenced by the fact that like Harmon kind of knew that it was appropriated by like far right people, right? And he kind of like, hasn't he kind of like shifted Rick's personality some in like the show a little, like since then? Or do you think it's kind of just the same and good?
Glidus?
This is a tough question.
No, I have what I want to say, but yeah, Glidus, go for it, bro.
As Rick's personality changed, well, yeah, they give him more storylines that give him opportunities to expand on the bleak nihilism that he began with, right? And I don't know, it's been a while since I watched it, and I didn't really think that much about it, which is strange for me. I liked the snakes episode where there's a snake war. Elon Musk appearing was weird.
Every time I fucking trash Elon Musk, I get fucking comments. It's amazing his fucking shadow army of stans, man. It's odd. Because I saw an analysis of the pickle episode, which is actually pretty heavy handed.
Oh, have you seen that? He turns himself into a pickle. It's fucking hilarious.
Yes. But the point of the episode, and it's pretty heavy handed in the episode, is that Rick is so emotionally broken that he'd rather turn himself into a pickle than actually like address his feelings, right? And
I saw a lot of comments after the episode came out that like Susan Sarandon's character, the therapist that outlines that at the end, is super fucking annoying and like, this is they've let women into the writers' room and now they're being woke and ruining my favorite show. Even though this episode where Rick turns himself into a pickle is fucking hilarious.
That's right. And I said like I almost didn't like that part in the sense that it's so heavy-handed. Like, yes,
it's so fucking obvious. Like,
of course that's the point of the episode. But the fact that like people would miss it and she needed to be there because everyone would miss it, and they still miss it after her saying it outright,
and they're mad about it.
Like that Rick is not a good human being to emulate. And I guess it gets into like back to guns and Trump and things like that. Like Trump is a horrible, unhappy human being. That is probably the most unhappy human being on the planet. Like you just look at his face and you're like, oh my God, that motherfucker is miserable. That guy is miserable. What a horrible piece of trash. And then, but some people are like, yeah, but he's awesome because he just fucking says what he wants.
Look how wealthy he is. Look how powerful he is.
Yeah, and he owns people, and it's like your need to own people is a misery loves company kind of thing. Look, I was 12 years old once, and I was teased when I was 12, and I felt horrible, and so I teased other people when I was 12, and I fucking passed it down the chain. Right? Like, I understand, like, when you're unhappy, you want to, like, put that unhappiness on other people. And that's fucking Rick, right? Like...
Yeah, you want to turn yourself into a pickle.
Rick and Morty episodes. So out of, like, the, 49, 50 episodes?
Yeah.
Only, like, 8 or 9 of them have been, like, canon of the show. Like, where it moves the story forward. So
and the rest are just like weird serial adventures.
Right, and there, in my opinion, there are 3 types of Rick and Morty episodes. Like ones that impact the canon overarching story, which are good, and then you have like those rare few that just stand out, like the Vat of Acid episodes. The Vat episode, which was phenomenal. If you haven't seen that one, Preston,
I've seen the Vat of Acid. I've seen the Vat of Acid episode. Yeah.
And then you have ones like Pickle Rick, where the writers just get fucking high and go, "Well, what can we turn Rick into this time? Let's turn him into a pickle." It's just
what wacky shenanigans can they get up to today?
Like the sperm episode was fucking stupid. What if Rick and Morty fought sperm? Like that's so fucking dumb. So
it almost reads like an early YouTube animated, like a Newgrounds sketch. I mean, I can appreciate that Roiland would be interested in recreating because he was there for that. He was interested in all that. I get it.
I almost feel the best episodes of Rick and Morty are kind of like the best episodes of Star Trek. Like they need to have a good sci-fi premise that makes you think about
like a high-minded concept.
Yeah, a high-minded, like rather than just being like Rick and Morty doing something like seemingly awesome in space. Like I kind of feel like the Rick and Morty episode where they ruin their dimension and then go and take their own places in a different dimension was like one of their best, because it's just like, whoa, like how would that actually feel, like knowing that the person your family isn't really your family.
It's a big human question, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas we have to fight the giant sperm monsters. That's not the human heart in conflict with itself.
And that episode, by the way, gets mentioned later. Like Morty will goes to Summer later on.
Canon.
And he'll show her.
So the canon episodes are like that one and like what evil Rick and evil Morty, right? Like, or I guess was there ever?
That's canon.
Yeah, but there's only like 4 episodes of those, right?
And people go nuts for it.
They're great. It's just apparently they don't like doing those canon episodes, and I think they were like meta about it, and came out and said why they don't. They like doing like one-off adventures, which I'm not a fan of the one-off adventures. I like the canon stuff with Evil Morty.
But they are kind of getting
you're
all the
interested.
same.
You're invested in these characters. You want to know where their stories are going, and these one-off adventures, they don't do that for you. They don't take you anywhere. It's just okay. That was fun. That was kind of dumb.
Right, it's either fun and dumb, or it's like, yes, Rick is pathetic. Like, there's a lot of like Rick is pathetic. Like the one where he builds that toilet, on the cliff. You know,
that made me feel sad.
Of course, but it's like, but he's supposed to be pathetic because he is pathetic, right? Well, I'm glad that the show is still okay. Because I've always been a fan of Dan Harmon, despite Dan Harmon being like, Dan Harmon's a horrible human being, but
seems it, yeah.
What?
The community's fucking hilarious,
but he's so intelligent and so self-loathing.
At least he has the he's respectable enough to know that he's a monster.
He does. He knows. I mean, there's a lot of these monsters out there. Like Joss Whedon knows he's a monster. And I love Joss Whedon.
Why is Dan Harmon a monster? I'm confused on that one. What did he do?
He like through Community, he sexually harassed one of his
a bit of a sex pest, him.
Yeah, he was sexually harassed one of his writers, and then like gave her more script time and stuff, and like put her ideas forward because he was like secretly in love with her, and like even though he was in a relationship, and like did it for years, like harassed this woman. And then in the end, he kind of realized that what he did was shit. So he sent her a text message that was like, I just want to let you know, like, I was really shitty to you and I'm really sorry. And she's like, how does this make me feel better? Like actions speak louder than words. And he's like, fine. So he goes on his fucking podcast, Harmontown, and he does this fucking long, hour-long apology, outlining in excruciating detail every horrible fucking thing he did and how horrible he was. Like outlining it, the whole thing, and just explains it. And then afterwards, everybody's like, this is a master's class on how to apologize. This is fantastic. And so she ended up feeling
outstanding performance.
Right. She ended up feeling even worse because it's like, well, now this fucking monster who like ruined my life and made me feel horrible is like getting praised for his fucking apology, and I'm still feeling fucking horrible. So I don't even know what you do now. Like what do you do when you've done something shit to somebody?
Not to take Dan Harmon's side, but what does she want though? He apologized.
I don't think
does she want money? Like
I don't think she wants anything. It's just one of those things where it's like, how do you fucking put the toothpaste back in the tube? How do you really make amends with somebody? Like something shitty was done to her, and it can't be undone to her. Which is a horrible thing, right?
What was she? I'm actually genuinely curious. Was what was supposed to happen? Is she upset that he apologized instead of being caught or outed by someone or a documentary?
I think she was upset that he did it at all.
Yeah, there's that, right? And she was probably a little upset that like his apology. He was giving himself up to the firing squad, and in a surprise, he got praised, and everybody loved him more. Like he ended up getting cred, like versus like
so
action.
How do you as a victim feel about that when the person who did that to you gets praised for, and like apologizing is good.
Yeah.
I don't know if, and it should be seen as a good thing that he apologized. But
yeah, and he didn't expect to get praised. He expected to be He expected to get trashed and canceled and all that. And then he fucking. The problem is that he's such a good writer. Essentially,
he's so good with words.
He's so good with words that he fucking made everybody like feel for him. He has such a fucking good rant on Now You See Me Part 2.
That's so funny. Now you don't.
It's now you don't. You named the movie. Now you don't.
Now you see me too.
It was just, I mean, he wasn't actually saying it. He was just babbling and babbling to keep the build up, like any good joke, and he's just building it up. And then the punchline, you name it, now you don't. Fucking, now you see me, part 2. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, that's a pisser.
Oh. I was serious. House of the Undying is in 2-part. Whiplash. The Visions Room start, and then are in reverse chronological. Then Danny has Q&A, which is not reverse chronological. It cannot be interpreted literally in that order. Well, we'll have to come back to this. I think this takes more analysis of going through and one by one to really
this guy's got a lot of money. Holy shit. This is like his 5th super chat. Yo, Ross, send some of that my way, motherfucker. God damn.
There's people in the
Wait, what is
chat
that
asking
A?
if they can
All
send
right.
his Venmo.
There's
Is
a
that
few.
A is Australian dollars?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Aussie dollars.
So it's that's only like $6.
Oh, never mind. Keep it.
I am.
Really? Did Australian dollars crash or something?
No, I'm fucking.
Oh
with
no.
you.
Actually, it's pretty close. Jeez, it's 75.
Yeah.
70, yeah, they're on par. It's like
never
20.
mind.
It's
Yo,
like
Ross,
$25.
Support me on Patreon. Highest tier, buddy. Love you.
It's pronounced Ross.
So there's a couple videos that I've been meaning to get to, like theory videos I've been meaning to get to. It's like, one is like dragons and what makes them hatch. And I think I can put House of the Undying on there. It's just that I'm also like trying to one, like finish my book, which is I'm very close to sending it to an editor. And then I've got fucking
Wait, which book? Minds of Wolves and Robin?
dreams of Ghosts and Indians. Yes.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there it is.
So I'm very close. I mean, at least on round 1, but just like having the original like length of words like done after fucking 5 years or whatever.
That's awesome.
And 5 more years of like having the idea in my head. So I'm very close on that front. And then I'm working on overanalyzing House of the Dragon. It's like, fuck, I need to fucking get some out before the season starts. Like I've just gotten to the fucking reign of Viserys, which means I've just gotten to the beginning of where the show starts. like six is how many videos have I done? Fucking I have to check my channel.
We got to finish that fire.
Is this going to be an 80-part series?
Oh, I think it might be like 80-part series. 6 parts in. So it took me 6 parts to get to the reign of Viserys. But I mean, at least, it's like I want to get a good deal into it. And then, we're going to have like 2 years or a year and a half before season 2, so there's some time. Just got to get to the beginning of the dance.
We got to finish the dance on the fuck. We got to, this needs to happen. You want to just like group up all the remaining chapters and just get it all out of the way in one swing.
Oh yeah. Well, podcast wise, we can definitely do that. Yeah. But the analyzing stuff just fucking goes.
By the way, when you sell your book, when what is it? The Cave of Robins. What is it? Dreams of
Ghosts and Indians.
Thank you. Why did I think Wolves and Robins? What is that?
Because it was
one of his YouTube series.
Right, YouTube thing.
Oh yeah! Thank you. Wow, I forgot about that. Thank you.
What's the name of your book? Genetics of Dragons and War?
You're right, man. I just got a fucking pattern. Then again,
when you go to your publisher, tell them you're a fucking YouTuber. Tell them you can promote this shit, and tell them you know other YouTubers that can promote it. It'll help.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about publishers or anything like that, so we'll figure it out. But I
can't wait to read your new book, Daenerys and the Page of Lies.
Yes, but it'll be called it'll be like slightly different, right? I'll be like Cassandra and the Page of of intrigue,
The Scroll of Deceit. It's actually not that bad.
It's not. I mean, it sounds like the Order of the Phoenix, you know, or the Goblet of Fire. Percy Jackson. And whatever. But yeah, let's see. We see Kat hallucinate multiple times. Is it possible that Kat has some type of condition? Super telepathic genes that she passes on to Bran. Besides, I mean, she blanks out. She loses time when she's with her dad. But I figure that that's somebody influencing her mind, because right after that she goes a little crazy and lets Jaime out of his dungeon. So I think that like there's that. And then, you know, she's definitely nuts when she's about to die. I'm trying to think of any other times where Kat just like is nutso. Can you guys think of anything?
Well, she's a white woman, so
I mean, that's true. That's
yeah.
After, I mean, once she comes back from the dead, yeah.
Yes. According to every person ever, she acts like a complete nut job when she's mean to Jon, when she captures Tyrion, when she tells Ned to go south.
Yeah.
When she does normal, rational things, she's a really crazy person. Sorry, you've opened a can of you've touched a nerve there.
I mean, it's true. It's true that like I can see that like letting Jaime go is kind of a rational decision, and it was the right decision in the end. It just seems a little crazy, and she does lose time right before it. That's the only thing where I'm just like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because she loses time.
Yeah, and in other situations that indicates that her mind's being invaded.
Yeah. I mean, like, Sam, like, trying to escape with Gilly and a baby is a somewhat rational decision, but he also loses time right before that. You know?
Yeah, so is that Bran showing up to say, hey, can you do this thing that makes the future not dystopic?
Yeah, because otherwise, you know, maybe he would have run off with Dolorous Ed instead or whatever. Yeah, but this gets into this next question. Do you think George R. R. Martin only added time travel to get around retconning stuff or mistakes in later books, like werewolves are only in the north?
Or Jane Westerling's hips? Or
Renly's eyes? Or the fucking Dance of the Dragons. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, but the appendix of A Game of Thrones says that Rhaenyra is 1 year older than her brother Aegon II, and that was the Dance of the Dragons.
Whew. Ooh. Oh, jeez.
Doesn't even say half brother. Rhaenyra and Aegon being full-fledged siblings, 1 year apart.
Yeah, siblings.
Yeah.
She's just a little older.
Right. I mean, but, you know, it's just George retcons shit, you know, like there's I mean, he's pretty look, generally speaking, George R. R. Martin is inhuman with his consistency in stories. I don't know like how many stories have as much consistency as George, but he has a lot of fucking mistakes and he has a lot of fucking retcons because it's a huge fucking book. So yeah, but time traveling Bran,
I don't think that he introduced time travel just to account for getting the gender of Jaime's horse wrong once.
No. I'm
pretty sure this is going to be central to the story's conclusion, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think he probably was thinking about time travel from the beginning. I would say it's one of the few things that he was. However, he gave himself an out up until A Dance with Dragons. He gave himself an out. Like,
yeah.
You know, if I think about like Bran Werewood talking to Ghost, he has an out because Bran's in the crypts, and so if he wanted to fucking abort that plot, he could. And you know, with the three-eyed crow and everything, like he can abort all of that anytime he wants and have the three-eyed crow be anybody, have it be Bloodraven. It was just in A Dance with Dragons where he actually has time travel, where he fucking goes forward full steam ahead. I mean, George adds, I kind of feel like a lot with A Dance with Dragons he added because he just wanted fucking pages, but I don't think the time travel is one of them. I think that the Bran chapter is a very careful chapter, and like if you want to say like, oh, the Widow of the Waterfront, like was George R. R. Martin thinking about like this carefully crafted chapter with Penny and the Widow of the Waterfront, and then like him being on a boat, and Makoro, I'd be like, no, he just was fucking writing. That was from fucking stream of consciousness, like Stephen King shit, because he just wanted to fucking like get Tyrion to Slaver's Bay, and he was just throwing shit in. But not time travel. No. Man, oh man. Somehow I got fucking behind again. We talked about Rick and Morty for so long. Hypothetically, is Aegon a Blackfyre or a Brightflame? Will it have story relevance, or is it just a nice wink of the audience from George? I think George didn't decide. I think so. A lot of people talk about when did George come up with Blackfyres. He knew there was going to be a fucking Dance of the Dragons from the fucking beginning. Okay, he included Rhaenyra and Aegon in the appendix, as I said, and then he mentioned Georg Mormont mentions a situation with succession disputes, like right in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So like he knew something was going to be there. Now,
I think even further back, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
As soon as he decided to base, a Clash of Kings on the War of the Roses, there had to be a previous civil war, because in English history, the anarchy happened like 150 years before that.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And it has basically the same structure as the Dance of the Dragons.
Now, since that time of like, a Game of Thrones, he's invented like a dozen different branches where this split could happen. There's so many. Like, is it children of Arya Targaryen? Is it children of Sarah Targaryen? Is it Arya and Brightflame? Is it Blackfyres? Like, there's so many places where you can have an extra Targaryen pop up and be in the story. And I don't think he's decided what it is, or if there's, and some people are like, oh, I'm going to come up with the maybe it's a Blackfyre married to a Brightflame. Who knows? He's got a million branches that he can fucking go on for extra Targaryens. They're all over the fucking place. So I think, I don't even know if George knows or cares at this point. Could be any of them. I don't know. Do you guys have any? Do you guys agree, or do you think he knows now which path?
Oh, you know how you said that he gave himself an out with time travel basically until The Dance with Dragons was published?
Yeah, I
think that's where we're at. I think until we read in print, and it turned out he was a Blackfyre, it's neither here nor there. Or
right, it could still conceivably be Rhaegar's son. Like,
yeah.
I don't think he's necessarily. he loves giving himself those outs.
And would young Griff even know exactly who he is? Daenerys doesn't exactly know who she is. Why would Aegon know exactly who he is?
That's true. And will it even be answered? It's one of those things where maybe somebody will bring something up as a possibility, and then it's never confirmed, because it will never be
one of those things that George just leaves open. You've read all of his shit. You know that all of his stories contain so many loose threads that I don't know. People seem so hung up on tying everything together in a neat little package, and it's like, bro, he doesn't do that. He'll tie up a lot. He'll tie up a considerable amount, but he won't tie up everything.
I'm thinking about like Dying of the Light. We never find out. Well, one, Dying of the Light, we don't know what happens to the main character, but we never really find out why the Whisper Jewel functioned the way it did in order to bring Dirk to the planet in the first place. Like, it's never really explained.
And like analogously, we might not find out why the White Walkers are attacking Westeros now. I assume we will find something like that out, but maybe not.
Yeah, he also specifically says, like, I love the mystery. Like, you don't want to, like give away all, like there's something beautiful to mystery. It's like, you know. Have you read any Thomas Pynchon? He's a pretty far left writer who's been around for 50 years. I think you love the detail of his writing. I have not. Let me think if I've recognized at least the titles of anything he's read, just to give it some time here. Dense and complicated novels. Crying of Lot 49, Gravity's Rainbow, Mason and Dixon, Inherent Vice. Okay. I've heard of Gravity's Rainbow, and my roommate in college was reading Mason and Dixon. So I've definitely heard of them. Wow. Each of these books is like 20 years, is like 10 years apart, 20 years apart. That's interesting. Huh. I guess that's what it takes to make the book complicated. Now that I'm going like at the end of like my writing for mine, like
yeah, wow.
It's not a long book. It's like 80,000 words. It's not a huge thing. But it's like but it's funny going back and like thinking about threads and wanting to tie them together, because you realize that you can spend just as much time writing it as like going back and making it intricate and tied together if you want, you know. And you kind of realize like why Stephen King doesn't do that. You know, like he just like, fuck it, publish it. Kat hallucinates in the Sept before Renly's death when she's lost. When she's lost with a girl named Lysa at the red. Well, yeah, she thinks about the clouds, the getting lost in the mist. She does lives time after Bran's fall and with her dad. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to have to see about like when she loses when she loses time in a Game of Thrones, because it's always interesting when characters lose time, because like I say, they usually do something very weird right after losing time, like Jon going up and finding Gior and having a fight, and Sam stealing a baby and things like that. All right, we just got a few more minutes, and then I got to say goodbye. I'm sure. Is it super? It must be super late for Carmine and everybody, actually. Jesus Christ. Does Mance's baby being named Aemon Steel Song mean nothing to you, man? I mean, when I thought of Aemon being named Steel Song, I thought of like Daenerys Stormborn, and how like if he's born during a battle, he's going to be called like Steel, and thus Dany being born during a storming might be called Storm, or whether you believe it's a literal storm of clouds, or if it's a storming of the castle. It's by Stannis. It's a storm. But I'm trying to think of like, is there something special to Aemon Steel? Am I thinking?
Or is that a typo?
Well, I'm trying to think of if there's anything else besides that that's relevant. But it'd be interesting to see where that baby ends up. I think it'd be really fun if it ends up in Slaver's Bay, but I don't know if George even knows what he's done with that baby swap, or if the baby swap is only there as a fucking metaphor call out to make us think about a different baby swap.
That's the one I always forget about. I always forget that baby swap happened.
Right, like, you know, we see a baby swap happen in the story, and so are we supposed to take that baby swap? And maybe that baby swap is irrelevant. But we're supposed to think, well, if this baby swap happened here, then Aegon could be maybe he's thinking about Bittersteel, that like we're supposed to sit there and go, okay, Aemon Steel Song, therefore like Aegon is a Blackfyre, Bittersteel, some connection like that.
Maybe it's just a cool name though.
Maybe it's a cool name. Time traveling Bran retcons the fat pink mask line. Sam was actually hallucinating a previous timeline where he had a fat pink mask. Like he doesn't actually have a fat pink mask, but in a previous timeline he had one.
I don't know about that. Do you think in a different timeline Sam isn't a George insert?
No,
Maybe
I mean,
Tyene Sand is the George insert in that timeline.
like his personality. It's hard to ever think of like Sam not as George R. R. Martin.
Yeah,
You know. Yeah. Sam is introduced so early, and he's just, I guess
he's just George.
He's just George. I mean, I guess we have to assume that's.
Do you think
George's...
before the end of the story, Sam will be wearing a hat with a turtle pin on it?
Like at the end of the story, like Sam marries like a girl from Estermont. Yeah, and then like puts the turtle on it on the. Be a little too on the nose of
Chicago and does psychedelics.
I guess. I mean, the turtle comes from like I guess he named another house actually after the fucking Great and Powerful Turtle character. Because the Great and Powerful Turtle from Wildcards, his real name is like I've got to look it up because the house hasn't done anything, so I'm forgetting it.
Right.
But
it's
Putledge, I think, or something. It's something random like that. Great and Powerful Turtle, Tudberry. It's so easy to say Tudberry. Right. Tudberry. There's a house Tudberry, I think is that in the Westerlands? Or it might be in the Stormlands. It's like some place that we've never but they also have a turtle as their it's in the Stormlands. So there's two Stormland houses with
oh, that's weird.
With fucking yeah. So, but that one's, I guess, he ran out of ideas. Like it wasn't enough to have like Rhaegar be like Jan Vickery from Dying Light. He actually has a house Vickery as well, or or I think did somebody add a house Tuttle in there? Even though Lysa Tully is already named after.
It's in the Telltale game.
Yeah. Any Mark G 171 fans? Mark G 71 was really great Redditor who had some really, really great takes. He quit. He was just like, fuck it. After like 10 years, he's like, at the 10-year mark, he was like, fuck it. The book's not coming. Like, I'm out.
Oh.
Never posted again. Yeah. He's like, it's really fun to theorize about a book that's going to come out. But if the book's not coming out, like it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, completely understandable.
Yeah. Do you plan to investigate in-depth Aerion Brightflame? Elio says there is something yet undiscovered about him in the world of Ice and Fire. I mean, that's the thing. Like, people brought up the Brightflame theory, and I was always like, there's no theory or substance about it. Your idea is just that Aerion Brightflame disappeared, therefore Aegon must have Brightflame like blood in him. And so we don't know anything about what he's done. So I'd have to look up in the world of Ice and Fire, like if they've added any additional information about him. Like he joined the Second Sons for a while, right? And but I don't know. And we know he had a daughter, but and that was overlooked from the throne. And so, I mean, maybe there might be some more stuff about the Great Council of one fucking ever, like whatever. Not the Great Council of not fucking 101, where they fucking murder the Blackfyres, and choose Aegon the Unlikely. Okay, Brightflame is brought up twice. Next to Aerion Brightflame, the most puissant knight and cruel capricious dabbler in the black arts. I guess dabbling. We kind of knew he was dabbling in the black arts. Um, they both had issue. Daron started a daughter. Oh, Magor is out there at some point. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's something with Magor. I don't know. But I guess I could look into it. But I've never heard anything that made me think I should spend more attention, like looking at the Bright Flames. Okay, last. This is funny. Mark G 171 is secretly George R. Martin.
Oh, so am I.
No, but it's kind of funny in the sense that he's like, it's never coming out.
Yeah, he gave up after 10 years.
Well, I'm saying the reverse though. I'm saying that George just fucking started. Like, I don't see any evidence that George did any writing prior to 2016. Like when they start talking about page counts and stuff like that. Because when he says something like, oh, well, I've got like 400 pages written. Like, well, that doesn't tell me.
Well, what does that mean? Yeah.
Those are your sample chapters? Like, and everybody talking about hundreds and hundreds of pages or being in the middle. Like, I don't have any evidence that he wrote anything new. Like now he says like, okay, I finished. He claims he finished at least 3 chapters over the course of COVID. At least, I mean, probably many more, but like at least 3. And he said he just finished a Clutch of Cersei chapter. So we have proof that like he's actually finished some chapters.
Yeah, like this is actually surprisingly good news.
Yeah, but
because we know what he says when there's not good news, and this isn't it.
Right. Yeah, it's actual like concrete progress that we can actually believe. That he's working on Jaime and Brienne and he has some Cersei chapters out. So it's small, but it's good news. But anyway, I've taken so much of you guys' time. Like, thank you, Glidus. Thank you, Carmine. Carmine.
I'll expect my check in the mail.
I've been here.
What do you have going on your channel, Glidus?
Well, you know how George is taking 10 years, 12 years at this point to release a book? I'm thinking of doing that for my next video.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably pretty good. It's probably a pretty good idea.
Yeah, keep them waiting.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like funny things you could do a quick video on, But
there are no quick videos when it comes to me.
That's true. What do you think about the theory that Swifty is Elio? I don't know if Swifty would marry or have a partner who
with Linda. I'll have to look into that, but I'm skeptical to begin with. Yeah,
the accents are very different.
Well, he could just be very good with voices.
That's true. That's true. Carmine was asleep. He's back.
Oh no, I was doing other stuff. Sorry about that. And
so you were doing the same as Trey.
Yeah, I was
not that quickly. But to the thing about George not like releasing the book, like I'm telling you, man, my theory is that I agree with you that he just started just now, but he's just so busy doing literally everything but, man. It must suck being 80,000 years old and only now finding like your fame and people like care about you and want your input on stuff. So
I think we all know what it feels like to procrastinate, like when you need to do something and then you like find a reason not to do it and you're like, oh, I could get something to eat, and you're off,
I could join Preston's live stream.
as you've gotten a good like 3 minutes of your piss take done that involves Cersei.
A good clutch of Cersei scenes.
Yes, you're now. Do you have a clutch of Cersei scenes that have been finished?
There actually is a Jaime and Brienne scene to be wrestling with now. So
nice. This is so perfect.
I'm doing No One where they meet in River Run.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Which all ended up kind of being I'm not
we'll
gonna
see.
bash like of all the storylines in the show. To like Jaime and Cersei is probably the last one to bash, right? Trying to think of like.
But you still get around to bashing it though.
I mean, it's kind of the best of the bad, right? It's like the least worst storyline of them all. But it is, yeah. There's so much bad. Like shoving those characters back together and then having them nothing to say to each other. I didn't think you'd find Sansa.
I did.
All right. Well then, I guess you can get your vote now. What? That's it? That's all you got to say to each other? All right. Yeah.
I can't believe by the end of the show, no one told Jaime that Lancel slept with Cersei.
Oh my god. Never?
No one says it to him.
There's never. I don't even think Lancel and Jaime have a scene together. Pretty sure they don't.
They look at each other in season 6. And that's it.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
Oh my god.
They don't even speak to each other, right? I don't think so.
No, they don't.
Holy shit, because it adds so much. Because they expand Lancel's role in the show, or at least from what we can expect.
Yeah.
And so there's so much opportunity in the sense because Jaime has so much standoff with the High Septon that it would add so much to know that like Lancel banged Cersei, and when he's like angry at the High Sparrow, he can also be angry at Lancel at the same time. There was so much missed opportunity there. But you're man, and Cersei doesn't fuck anybody else, right?
I get like Euron, I guess, in season 8. That's really it.
Does she finally fuck Euron?
Well, he's convinced that she's pregnant with his child, so you'd assume that they did fuck at some point. Otherwise, he's just a total moron.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of already. Like, timeline-wise. But, like, okay, so she does finally have sex with Euron. But I guess Jaime is somewhat annoyed by it, but not too much. That's it. I mean, because we don't have any kettle blacks. She doesn't fuck any kettle blacks.
There's no Taina.
There's no Taina. Oh, totally right. Yeah. Man. Cersei racks up some good notches. Right?
Yeah.
So. Oh, Jaime banged Brienne, so it's all good.
True.
I know, but like one could say that like, not that Gwendolyn Christie isn't attractive, but is it, Euron's probably more attractive than like as a man, and Gwendolyn Christie is as a woman. So plus like Euron is probably better in bed, right? He's gonna do some crazy stuff. Brienne's a virgin.
That's like Brienne's a virgin, yeah.
Yeah, that's not gonna be like, it's gonna be some awkward virgin sex, Plus drunken, like couldn't have really been very good sex. Like Jaime Brienne sex, like they're both drunk, and she's a virgin.
He's only ever had sex with his sister.
You're right. He's only had sex with one person, so he doesn't have very much experience on like different things. Yeah. So. Yeah. That's gonna be some. Yeah.
Anyway, see ya.
All right, let's wrap up there. Yeah. As we go into like deep discussion about there's your video idea. Whose sex was the best? Like whose sex was the most awkward? When Marjorie had sex with a child, or when Gendry had sex with a psychopath virgin.
Oh no.
When Jaime had sex with a virgin,
a drunk virgin.
Jesus, there's some really bad.
Or that one time Jon Snow knew exactly how to eat pussy despite never doing it before.
This is time traveling Bran. I mean, time traveling Bran.
Oh god.
I mean, we have to assume like at least in like this is like in ground like this is like in Groundhog's Day. Like this is like the dark Groundhog's Day like discussion. So there's this discussion about like Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day has like been through the cycle like 30,000 like 100,000 times, right? He's tried everything. So like people darkly say like, well, he must have like at least one time like raped Andy McDowell. Right? Like he must have tried that out at some point because he's done everything.
He's tried everything.
Yeah. And so you kind of have a time traveling Bran is kind of doing the same thing. And so in one of his timelines, because it's kind of implied that he's in love with Mira, that in one of his timelines, maybe he's gotten together with her. And so he like Bran would know that knowledge. And so he would then pass it on to Jon through like a dream. From time traveling,
right? And because Bran's impotent, he wouldn't. Yeah, okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah, right. Like he can't do anything else, so he would have to become like the best, right?
By the way, Glidus, are you gonna do a sex video on top of doing a sex video ready to smash or pass?
the most awkward sex in Westeros. Who had it?
I feel like my channel is already pigeonholed enough. I don't want to further that problem.
Because Rob Jane Westerling, Talisa sex would probably be pretty awkward. He's also never had sex. Man, it's just a lot of virgin sex. Ugh. I mean, no, you know who probably had really good sex? Theon Osha. Fuck.
Oh, I mean,
that's very George R. R. Martin. Theon Osha. Show Theon and show Osha have sex. They don't have sex in the book.
Yeah, but she was just trying to distract him. Like she wasn't into it. She wasn't doing it for any other reason.
It's true, though. She I imagine that Osha like has some crazy wildling techniques or whatever north of the wall.
I imagine that the Theon Roz one would go down pretty well. Maybe the Pycelle Roz one. Who knows?
Yeah, Theon Roz. You're right. Theon Roz. Theon. That's true.
The captain's daughter, maybe. No, wasn't she?
No, captain's daughter's virgin. Yeah, captain's daughter.
Jesus Christ, George.
Why is everybody fucking everything's virgin sex, or like committed partner who's only had sex with one other person's sex? Okay, wait. Oberyn Martell. Oberyn Martell has sex with some sex workers, and
everyone there is a seasoned expert.
Yeah, so Oliver and Oberyn Martell probably had the best sex in the show.
Really good sex, you'd imagine.
Yeah, really, really, really good sex. Everybody else.
You're not going to mention Tywin and Shay?
Tywin and Shay, yeah.
Would Tywin be a good lay?
He'd probably be very selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Everyone got mad at me for passing on him.
God, no. You totally pass on him. He would be completely selfish. I don't know, like, no. Trying to think if anybody... Yeah, I mean,
Ramsay
that's the thing.
It's like,
it's Ramsay and Miranda.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
I'll pay the OnlyFans to see that one.
I mean, Miranda with anybody would be. But do we know if Ramsay has ever had sex with anybody else besides Miranda? I mean,
I think it's a pretty good bet, surely.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but it's funny though. Once you start saying like, okay, consensual sex between two experienced partners. There's very little in the story. Like it's either non-consensual sex or inexperienced sex, or like sex between people that have not had many partners.
Tyrion and Shay?
Tyrion never has consensual sex in the entire story.
I suppose. Yeah, that's kind of lame.
No, I guess he had. Cause, I mean, I guess if we believe his story, he has awkward virgin consensual sex with Tysha. If we believe that, yeah.
Jimmy, what have you done? This fucking question.
I guess Podrick. I think they're implying that with Podrick, that Podrick has a bunch of like crazy sex.
I hate that.
I do
really
hate that. It's just not realistic.
Have you heard my counter theory to that?
What is it?
He sang to them. That's why they
Yeah.
gave him that.
That's a much better.
Thanks.
That's much.
That was
better.
one I was hearing
Oh.
for such a long time. Like episode 2, season 8. I forgot about that one. You think he sang to them, and that's why they gave the money back?
I do think that. And also in episode 4 of season 8, when they're playing the, drink if you've done this thing game with Tyrion and Brienne and Jaime, and Tyrion's like, you're a virgin. I know that he's asking Brienne, but Podrick drinks when he asks that question.
Oh, that's a good catch. I always thought he drank out of nervousness.
Could be.
Huh. And then he goes and has a 3-way
Yes.
right after that.
Good on him.
Huh.
Awkward virgin 3-way.
Awkward version. Oh man. In the book, at least, Asha and Carl the maid have sex, so they have some some consensual sex.
Yep, we know quite a bit of detail about that one.
But Carl the maid is only in the story. So and I'm trying to think. It's the same with like Ares Oakheart. Actually, Ares is specifically said to be not that experienced. Like he had sex a few times before he took his vows, but he was not actually the best. Dany and Dario. Dany doesn't really. Dany doesn't. I mean, I guess she was taught by. I guess Dany and Dario would perhaps have the best sex in the show. Yeah, because she's taught by Daria.
Yeah.
She's had at least Khal Drogo. Dario's had 1,000 women, right? But man, it's really tough to find some good healthy consensual sex in our.
I think the worst one would probably be Gendry and Arya, because she's a psychopath, as you say, and it's unclear actually if he's a virgin or not. Like, because when Melisandre captures him, he says he's a virgin.
Yeah, but years have passed, so who knows?
Yeah, that was 5 years back.
Yeah.
He would have a bunch of associated trauma that might make things tough. Anyway,
where he can only have sex with psychopaths, with a psychopathic.
Oh, theory moment.
After Melisandre, he decided that he's only going to love women that murder other people.
Has a murderer fetish.
Apparently that's a thing. Like all those guys, like mass murderers on death row get like sex letters from women constantly. Like it's pretty psychotic. Yeah. I'm not saying it's like a large percentage, but when you're like a nationally famous mass murderer, you're gonna get like 30 letters from across the country.
Damn, why'd I become a YouTuber?
Yeah, I know. Yara almost has sex with Ilaria. That would have been nice. That would have been good. Probably. Trying to think anybody. That's it. Okay. All right. As much as our weird rabbit hole must end at some point. Thank you guys. Thank you for taking time out. This was great. And I'll see you guys. See you all next time.